I'm Scott Hansen, host of NFL Red Zone. Lowe's knows Sundays are for football. That's why we're here to help you get your next DIY project done, even when the clock isn't on your side. Whether that's a new Filtrete filter or Bosch and Cobalt power tools, Lowe's has everything you need to feel like the MVP of DIY. So get it done and earn your Sunday. Shop now, in-store and online. Lowe's, official partner of the NFL.
This podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Head there to check out exclusive podcasts like Talking Futurama, Talk King of the Hill, the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, and tons more.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello everybody and welcome to What a Cartoon, where a warlord becomes a sore lord. I'm one of your hosts, the samurai sushi master Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today, as always?
Henry Gilbert, and I'm sure it's Red Herring this time.
And this month's podcast is all about the pup named Scooby-Doo episode, Now Museum, Now You Don't.
Come on, Scoob, let's... Oops. Excuse us, Mr. Samurai? Yoinks! Like it's the Samurai goes!
Yes, and for the spooky month of October, we're dipping back into Scooby-Doo, that is, because back in 2020, we covered an episode of the original series and the fantastic movie Zombie Island. So it's been 5 years, and we're heading back to Doo Town to explore a vital piece of the 90s animation renaissance puzzle.
Yes, it is a key touchstone of why animation in America on TV got good right as the 90s began. Also, Bob, it was so hard for me to resist not making my catchphrase at the beginning be Ramarai Rushi Raster instead.
I don't appreciate that speech impediment of Scooby's. It's very insensitive. But yes, this is one of the pieces of the puzzle. I think the last one we have to fit into the puzzle is the Ralph Bakshi Mighty Mouse cartoon.
Maybe the Beanie and Cecil as well, perhaps.
Yes, all 6 amazing episodes.
It's funny, even when he was young, that particular creator could not finish anything, even with a network budget.
No. Maybe we can mention John K's Beanie and Cecil reboot as a footnote in the Ralph Bakshi Mighty Mouse.
But it's funny that this is part of the, it's like where the wave is starting to pull back to come in. And it's something fun watching this is I feel like I can see this creative generation of good cartoon writers fighting against all of the walls around them in the machinery of Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, just like when the Berlin Wall fell at the end of the 80s, the animation wall crumbled and we were finally able to access good stuff beyond the wall of the 80s into the 90s. Does this metaphor make any sense? I don't know.
Well, yeah, actually, I guess the Berlin Wall, Alf's going to be breaking down the Berlin Wall real soon, as we all remember.
David Hasselhoff is playing on top of it.
This also is a funny one in the Doo history of things we've covered, that we covered the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which I think I mainly focused on just how that series was made and created. And then Zombie Island was the attempt to the successful attempt to update it for the era of Scream films. But this is in the middle of that, the step towards that postmodern. Well, I mean, this is fully postmodern Doo, right?
Yeah, yes, we have stepped in some postmodern Doo. We're scraping it off our shoes. And it is rewarding, at least as a kid, it was rewarding. As a longtime Scooby-Doo viewer, I was alive for 6 years, but I had seen a lot of it, that they're poking fun at all the tropes and stereotypes that would happen in these episodes.
Yeah, when we were growing up watching in the era before the 1988 fall debut of this, we were watching Scooby-Doo and reruns on USA Cartoon Express, and in a pre-Wikipedia internet age, any episode of Scooby-Doo was from the same amorphous old time. One from a 1972 Scooby-Doo versus a 1981 Scooby-Doo was the same year as far as I was concerned as a kid.
Unless Shaggy had that damn red shirt on, then you knew you were in trouble.
That's true, yeah. Then that you knew Flim Flam couldn't be far behind.
Mm-hmm.
If people hate Scrappy, they should really hate Flim Flam. That's the showrunner of this show, or the creator-ish of this show, like, he made a good point that he said he never really hated Scrappy all that much because he's like, at least he has something to do. Fred, until this show, Fred had nothing.
That's very true. Yeah, I guess we're talking about our experience with the show right now. And yeah, that's what I liked as a kid. Even as a kid, this is why I'm a cartoon podcaster today, I guess. Even as a kid, I thought, I can see the flaws of Scooby-Doo. I didn't just dislike it because my sister loved it. I disliked it because of the formula about how there were no real strong personalities outside of Shaggy and Scooby, and how it was always revealed to be, okay, it's old Mr. Carruthers who ran the amusement park, et cetera, et cetera. Like, all of these things bored me. And then this show comes along, suddenly it's cartoony, the animation is good, as far as I know it's good compared to things that are on TV currently, and everybody is given a distinct personality for once. It's not just Shaggy and Scooby.
Yeah, when you would see this compared to old Scooby cartoons, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo looks so different, so much more alive. Now, when you compare it to, say, things animated by Japanese companies like TMS, like, say, Inspector Gadget, or the best episodes of, like, DuckTales or Rescue Rangers that ran around the same time, this is not as good as this. This is much looser and lower budget.
It's attempting Western, fluid, classic cartoony animation, not quite getting there, not enough money, not enough talent, and then the hallmarks of this style will go on to haunt the first half of the 90s.
Yes.
With the other programs this particular guy works on the art side of things.
Yeah, it really owes so much to Tex Avery. Like, these are Tex Avery fans, and that to think of a classic MGM Tex Avery style melded with something as staid and locked in and character models never changing and run cycles always repeating of Scooby-Doo classic. I think the friction between those two styles does make for some fun. But yeah, I was a watcher of this early. I definitely was like a Saturday morning viewer of it as a kid, and it did prime me for stuff like Tiny Toons to come afterwards, for sure.
Yeah. As a kid, I definitely appreciated when a show didn't talk down to me, and I was very perceptive about when that wasn't happening. And I think kids are pretty savvy about that because they wanted to be treated like little adults. So I did appreciate the things this cartoon did. And then I watched it again a little bit later because it was on Cartoon Network a lot, especially during summer vacation. So probably when I was like 12 or 13, I watched it all again, and I appreciated, like, okay, now I'm a little more aware. I'm watching The Simpsons and Ren and Stimpy and much more mature, sophisticated cartoons. I can see, like, this is a necessary step towards the things I like.
And that when this came out in '88, we would have both have seen Roger Rabbit in theaters. That already was like talking about like cartoon logic and like, you know, well, your shadow was like this, or you don't fall until you look at this. Like, so this animated series following the wild take rules or all these other rules that you see in Roger Rabbit, like, you were ready to think about it on that nerdy cartoon level.
Yeah, it's very meta in a way that I'm surprised Hanna-Barbera allowed with this property.
Yeah, it's I feel like the creator of this show basically had a cheat code to convince at least Bill Hanna to get away with this. And I also think this was like the last time, until other people were in charge, like Fred Seibert, to make the What a Cartoon franchise. The creativity was back in the vault for a few years after this show, I think.
Yeah, I guess Two Stupid Dogs is probably when they crack open that vault again.
Yeah, it's so funny. It was them trying to be like, well, we can do a Ren and Stimpy, can't we? But the characters are so locked in, they can't move at all. But they are like a big guy and a little guy screaming at each other all of the time. But we've talked about this guy before, so I won't belabor it too much, his history. But yes, this is the brainchild of one Tom Ruegger.
Wow, creator of Platypus Duck?
Yes, the very man behind Platypus Duck, who he was able to sneak that character into a Scooby cartoon.
Yes, I forget which episode we talked about this on, but Platypus Duck has a spotlight performance in one of these Scooby-Doo episodes where he gets an entire song.
Yeah, it is so poochy because, like, Scooby looks at the camera, is like, I love, like, he's like, I love Ratapus Rock. Like, he loves them. I think you definitely covered that when we did the Plucky Duck Show episode of Tiny Toons. I think you brought that up in that history there for sure.
Oh, yes, yes. So we were talking about Tom Ruger, correct?
Yes, yeah, the Tom Ruger.
We've covered like every one of his shows, often more than a few times. We've covered Animaniacs and the reboot and Tiny Toon Adventures and Freakazoid. It just he touched so many great cartoons in this era.
Even the early, like, first 12 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, like when we covered the Gray Ghost episode, Tom Ruger was very involved in that one.
Right. Yes. That was one plate he couldn't keep spinning, so he had to give it to somebody else.
And one of these days we'll get to Road Rovers. One of these days.
Ooh, is he a Road Rovers guy?
I think so, in just the general sense that he was like leading up most of those things. Well, he definitely was the Hysteria guy. Road Rovers, I'm making an assumption now just because it was on Kids WB, but it had the humor of a Tom Ruger type show. But yes, the Tom Ruger, we've covered his Hanna-Barbera stuff a little bit in the lead up to the story of how he created or got hired to create Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and all that. But I want to focus more on that since this is pretty much the story of how he got to make a good Scooby-Doo cartoon. So he was, born in the 50s in New Jersey, almost straight out of college at the age of 22. He moves from New Jersey to Los Angeles in search of animation work. And he says he called all of these studios. Like there's many interviews out there. Tom Ruger does a lot of good interviews and is very open and funny talking about his work history. And he says he was reaching out to everybody, reached out to Ralph Bakshi, reached out to Filmation. And he says that he had a meeting with Bill Hanna, and Bill Hanna liked the cut of his jib, gave him a month-long test as an animation assistant, and he ended up staying for 2 whole years in that job.
Yeah, I mean, at least from an outsider's perspective, it seems like there was a real big animation boom, at least within the worlds of Filmation, Hanna-Barbera, and Ruby Spears.
Yeah. By the late 70s, maybe it was partially thanks to the popularity of Star Wars. Maybe that was heating up kids' entertainment again, or they were reinvesting in this is the last wave before the toy syndication boom. So it's still pretty much all Saturday morning. And he is kind of the last of a generation of getting to animate in the building of Hanna-Barbera, because they already were outsourcing a lot back then, like Korean animation, Taiwanese animation, Philippines animation starting to heat up, as well as Australia. They're like Hanna-Barbera is opening an Australia studio. He tells the story that Christmas 1980, him and everybody else is laid off from the animation department at Hanna-Barbera. A wonderful Christmas present. He then decides, well, if I'm going to stick around, I guess they're not taking away the writing jobs and the storyboarding jobs here, just the animation. So he's able to get an animation job at Filmation. He gets it off of a pitch for a show that's basically like a Buttons and Mindy kind of cartoon where a dog is almost killed a bunch of times saving a baby who doesn't understand what's going on. And Filmation was like, oh, this is great. Obviously, we'll never make this, but we'll put you on some shit and you can work on that. And so he worked on a bunch of shit at Filmation.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be too animation intensive, not a bunch of scenes of people standing around and talking.
Yes, yeah, it wouldn't be that sounds like characters might break their models and have to have multiple model sheets for one episode. That would be too crazy. You need to watch, listeners, look up 1979 or 80 Filmation cartoons and you will appreciate how much more money Hanna-Barbera put into their cartoons.
Yeah, but even at this stage, it feels like they weren't willing to give this the money it needed, because I noticed while watching this, everybody is always just going through their walk cycle, like their pre-drawn walk cycle. Yes. To the point where sometimes it does feel like a joke, but also I'm thinking, well, they just had these things people could copy to make the production easier.
I wonder with the walk cycles in this, it feels even weirder because these are creative looking characters, but they're doing the walk cycles like every Scooby-Doo is okay, we'll walk into this room, the same walk cycle of the gang you always see, right?
Yes.
But when they do it with these designs, it looks weirder.
Yeah, maybe they were aware of what they were doing, but also it feels like they would probably make that same kind of shortcut in 1988.
Yeah, they thought it could work all the same, but this is, again, it's why this stuff seems creaky by 88. But so while he does a little time at Filmation, in 82, he's able to get a job back at Hanna-Barbera because he says that thanks to the Smurfs being a colossal hit for them, Hanna-Barbera was really staffing up again in 82. He said Joe Barbera sold too many shows and then came to Bill Hanna, and Hanna was like, we don't have the staff for this. We can't do 10 shows in a season.
Yeah, whenever we cover writers and artists from this era, you find out that, oh, they wrote 60 Smurfs.
Well, because somebody's got to do the Shirt Tales and the Gary Coleman Show. And Tom Ruger's one of those poor men. And when you look at the writing staff in general of A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, it's all these guys who like came in late 70s, early 80s, like Tom Ruger, who only wrote at Hanna-Barbera. It feels like a family business in that, like, hey, you can work your way up from the mailroom at Hanna-Barbera Studios. And so, yes, he tells a funny story that when he was writing for Gary Coleman, after one episode of that, he was begging, please let me do anything else. I can't stand this.
And that is the cartoon in which Gary Coleman is dead.
Yes, he's a helpful angel. I wonder, what TV show were they ripping off for that one? What was a helpful angel show of like 1981 that they were then ripping off for the Gary Coleman show?
I don't know. I really associate those helpful angel shows with the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that's why it almost feels like they didn't rip something off, which is impossible because Hanna-Barbera didn't make original shows then. They always ripped off the previous year. Yeah.
Maybe they were cashing in on just the sheer amount of angel sightings in the 80s.
And hey, why not Gary Coleman? Or maybe it was just like Gary Coleman was like, I always dreamed of being a helpful angel. Can you make that happen?
I remember seeing just like one episode of this that aired on Cartoon Network, I don't know, at 2 a.m, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to suck. And then it was just really boring.
We were raised on the ironic replays of these cartoons on Cartoon Network, probably by future Space Ghost writers. Like Brack probably put those on TV for us to laugh at them.
This was the Andy Merrill programming block.
But so, yes, he wrote on Gary Coleman Show, GoBots, Shirt Tales, all that junk. And he was able to get a Scooby job. And he said he said that he was just too old for Scooby-Doo when Scooby-Doo first debuted. So he had to take a crash course in Scooby, and he works on what is essentially the second season of the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. It's every Scooby-Doo show has 3 names because they kind of renamed them each season. And then when they would even call it a new show, it'd really be just like the 3rd or 4th season of the previous show. They were always trying to trick kids.
And we experienced these all just mashed together. And you would only know based on the opening theme what you were getting.
That's also why the titles always had to have the new Scooby-Doo. This was called the new Scooby and Scrappy-Doo show. Same with the new Scooby-Doo movies, which were just a double episode that had Sonny and Cher or the Three Stooges, quote unquote, in it. So they were up to the new Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. This is when he said he committed himself to the tropes. He really did enjoy Scooby and Shaggy. He's like, you know what? This does work. And he really did enjoy working with Don Messick and Casey Kasem to the point that I don't remember if Kasem's in Tiny Toons as a regular, but Don Messick is his Hampton Pig.
Yes. And I think that was one of his last roles because he's not long for this world.
I think at least one of those very late Tiny Toon specials was a posthumous release for Messick, I want to say. The Twilight Zone one, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. I think it was called Night Ghoulery, and that was a rare 1994 episode of Tiny Toons. That was probably part of the Animaniacs production cycle.
Yeah. But though it was a TMS one, too, so it still looks pretty good.
If you can find it, it looks fantastic.
So, yeah, where's Scooby-Doo at right now when he gets hired on there? Well, it's in a weird place where for a whole decade, they did everything they could with Scooby-Doo. They did over 100 episodes of Scooby-Doo in various forms, and that counts the movies as 2 episodes each. They did all these Scoobies, all the celebrity guests. Scooby, when they make the Laugh Olympics, there's Scooby's All-Star Laugh Olympics. Scooby is the top above the Laugh Olympics name.
Yeah, I looked at all of the many Scooby series, and they seem to really dry up just as we become sentient beings, you and I, Henry.
It finally, the Gen X kids ahead of us were finally worn out of Scooby-Doo by the time we were born in 1982, yeah. And you can see by 76 they're already playing with the formula. That's where they introduce Scooby-Dumb, Scooby-Doo's stupid cousin, who's less seen and less hated than Scrappy-Doo.
At a certain point, he has more cousins than Snoopy.
I mean, the extended Doo family, or Doobert family, because he's Scooby-Doobert. Scoobert-Doobert, I think.
Is Dynamutt a Scooby-Doo relative? Or did he just hang out with Scooby-Doo?
I think he's a friend, because they shared, it was the Scooby-Doo Dynamutt Hour, I want to say. They're pals, for sure, Dynamutt. And also to show how poorly things were going, or so in 1979 they make Scooby Goes to Hollywood, a TV movie that is entirely about Scooby-Doo's really played out, and it's It's like the Roger Rabbit or the Daffy Duck cartoon where it's like, hey, I quit. I want to be in new cartoons. It's that for Scooby.
They're only 13 years into this franchise, and they're saying, we're done. We're out of ideas.
We've done everything. Can Scooby-Doo, can he make jokes about how he wants to be the Fonz now instead? Like, let's do that. Like, that's what they do for the 10th anniversary of Scooby-Doo is make a movie about, like, this Scooby thing's getting pretty old, guys.
Oh, yeah, it's only 10. Late 60s was the premiere of the original series.
Yeah, this almost, a Pup Named Scooby-Doo's second season is with the 20th anniversary. So, yeah, it's crazy to think of when Scooby-Doo was only 20. So yes, the 80s though, when they get to 1980, that's where they're like, we got to shake this up with Scrappy Doo, which enough has been said about him, but he's a very hated character.
My opinion on this has been, and I'm sure I've said this on podcasts, Scooby-Doo was already bad, in my opinion. I never liked Scooby-Doo, the original series, so it's not like Scrappy Doo ruined it.
Yeah, he's just there. He is more like him being there lets you know that this is tired. Like it reminds you that this is along the two.
He's the Roy they added, or I mean, obviously the Poochie they added, but I guess the downside is he is annoying and they give him a lot of attention. But maybe if they had given Fred, Daphne, and Velma personalities, they wouldn't have to keep saying, what's Scrappy up to? What is he getting into this time, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's it was funny when we did the Poochie live show with Bill Oakley that he pointed out like he never was upset by Scrappy Doo and his kids love Scrappy Doo, he said. Oh, yes, actually you mentioned the other characters. They basically get rid of Fred and Velma and they actually Daphne comes back in the second season, but even in the first season of the Scrappy Doo thing, they're like, we just need Shaggy, no other humans. And then by the second season, like, we got to have at least one regular person around Shaggy.
Yeah, Shaggy needs one normal person to talk to.
But Fred and Velma were like retired characters for a few years. Like Daphne just took on, this is how Ruger described it. Basically, Daphne just takes on all of the things that Velma and Freddy would do. So if you need somebody to be like, hey, wait a minute, I don't think we should, or Shaggy, come on, or whoa, hey, I see a clue. Daphne just does it all for those seasons.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying earlier, the characters don't have a big personalities, at least initially. That's why I like this series. But you can really stick any of that dialogue in any of the characters' mouths outside of Scooby and Shaggy, and it would make sense. Like, there's nothing that Velma would say that Freddy wouldn't say.
That's why people had to like make up like, oh, Freddy and Daphne are they separate to go have sex, or Velma's a lesbian. You have to imprint these things on these characters because they have so little in the originals.
I'm getting nothing from these guys.
Ruger also said he did like the Daphne once he got her in there when he was writing in the Scrappy Doo era was that it let Shaggy and Scooby be alone because if you don't have another person, Scrappy just has to always be with Shaggy and Scooby. But once Daphne's there, she can be with Scrappy and let Shaggy and Scooby do their thing away from Scrappy Doo. So when Ruger gets put in charge of that season, the second season of that, he does the new Scooby-Doo mysteries. He does a 15th anniversary episode in 1984 that brings back Fred and Velma for like a one-off. Like, it's like, oh, Fred, what are you doing now? And Velma, you're retired. What do you do? She teaches. He's like a mystery writer. But the most important thing is, hard to believe, in 15 years, these characters didn't have last names until Tom Ruger said, we got to have last names for these characters.
Wow, so he is the inventor of Freddie Jones and Daphne Blake.
Yes, yeah, he came up with all of them. Shaggy Rogers, Daphne Blake, Freddie Jones, and Velma Dinkley. It's so crazy that it took until 15 years. That shows you how little Hanna-Barbera, Ruby Spears, any of those guys gave a shit. They're like, who cares? It's Shaggy and Daphne, who cares? That's why in this show, he creates even more lore that just becomes like the reality of Scooby-Doo. Like he fills in the Wikipedia pages. And so in 1985, they have a new Scooby-Doo show they're going to reboot for as well. Guess what was a big hit the year before? Ghostbusters. So it's time for Scooby-Doo to bust some real ghosts.
Oh, man, yeah, there's a lot of real Ghostbusters vibes in this series, too.
Yeah, this is them like reacting even more to what was a hit about the real Ghostbusters. So the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, that's just them reacting to the movie Ghostbusters. And they're like, okay, he lets out 13 Ghosts. Daphne also gets updated to a very early 80s look. Like it's funny to see her design, and that's also red shirt Shaggy era.
Have we explained the red shirt? Was there a reason behind the red shirt? I know we had to have covered this at some point.
I think the red, I don't know if there's a literal explanation for it. I always assumed it was just to make Shaggy look different, just like Daphne's redesign. They're like, well, we don't want to mess with Shaggy too much, but give him a red shirt. Then kids will know it's not a rerun.
Yeah, I'm looking at Daphne and 13 Ghosts. The best description I can give is sexy jumpsuit.
That's also like her wearing a sexy Ghostbusters costume, right? In the jumpsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and they got Vincent Price in there, too. They actually got a celeb for it. But it was not a big hit, but it did show that they trusted Tom Ruegger. Another thing they could react to from 1984 was something, Bob, you did a great history on Muppet Babies.
Yes. Charitably, I will say the series is Muppet Babies meets the real Ghostbusters.
Yes, yeah, totally, yes. They never did a little real Ghostbusters. Well, I guess Slimer shorts did have kid friends, didn't they, actually?
Yeah, the Slimer shorts were a little more kidified. I seem to recall there's probably at least one episode of The Real Ghostbusters where they become children.
That can't not have happened. Also, The Real Ghostbusters came up in my research because I was reminded the ABC executive who bought a pup named Scooby-Doo is the same executive who demanded that Janine be made nicer and more motherly on Real
Don't like
Ghostbusters.
that.
Yeah.
Enemy of humankind, that man.
But yeah, the Muppet Babies was giant. Like it was a huge moneymaker for Jim Henson. It seems so obvious. Make your already attractive and fun characters even cuter and smaller and sell them to even younger children. That is like a money printing machine. Though it definitely Muppet Babies is predated by Little Archie goes back to the 1956 comic, or Bugs and Elmer in The Old Gray Hair in 1944. They have Bugs and Elmer babies fighting each other. It's always been around.
Yeah, it's a reliable gimmick, although I don't recall there being a lot of merch for this show. I looked this up and I saw an old plush, but I don't know if they were merchandising these things quite as much as they would do today.
There was a big merch missed opportunity that would not happen on Tiny Toons, I'll tell you that.
No. They rolled out the merch first before the show even premiered.
So, Hanna-Barbera is seeing, they never see a deal they don't want to rip off, but they aren't able to do that until the fall of 1986 with the debut of The Flintstone Kids, which even as a dumb kid, I hated. I did not like that cartoon.
Yeah, I knew what they were selling me. I didn't want to buy it.
I did like the Captain Caveman stuff with his own little kid junior version. That I was okay with. And they also, not only that, but then after A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, they would do Tom and Jerry Kids in 1990 and Yo Yogi in 1991.
Terrible. Yeah. Tom and Jerry Kids was something that aired on Fox Kids, and they were going for a much more edgy tone with their programming. Even back then, very early Fox Kids, Tom and Jerry Kids did not fit. And there was so much of it, too.
I think that was the only Hanna-Barbera show Fox bought. I think that was where they learned their lesson of this isn't us. And Yo Yogi, meanwhile, kind of killed cartoons on NBC.
Yeah, unfortunately, the name of that show completely poisoned the Yoyogi area of Japan for me. Whenever I go to Yoyogi, which is a great place, my wife's favorite ramen shop is in that area. I just think of that cursed cartoon in the 90s dubbed character designs.
You're thinking of the thing you watched before, Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
Well, no, we were syndicated Saved by the Bell kids, actually.
I was actually, now I will say, I have the bragging rights of being an OG Saturday morning Saved by the Bell. I watched the premiere, and I think it actually was this season that Saved by the Bell premiered on NBC.
Wow, man. Okay, well that's fun. Yes, I didn't watch Saved by the Bell until after school. The hours of it after school on USA. It was USA and TBS, if I recall correctly.
Yes, and then just syndicated whoever wanted to buy it. By the way, it was 89 Saved by the Bell, but I was there. Everybody is so proud of me.
These baby versions, they're still huge money makers. Every IP has baby versions of things. I just went to City Walk and saw the Minions are already cute enough, and yet there are baby Minions toys. Which that seems wrong, physiologically wrong for Minions. They shouldn't be babies. They're just always Minions.
I haven't seen those movies beyond the first two. I don't care to, but I imagine at some point we see how they're born or created.
Yeah, I guess these answers probably are in the Minions solo movies, but I thought from what I remember, I thought the Minions were an ageless group of things that have existed for thousands of years.
I think that's in the first one, but sorry, going back to Saved by the Bell, this is Saturday morning chat, and we can do this here. It's a safe space. Now, the reason I watched it is because I watched the Saturday morning preview show that happened the night before or the Friday before, and it's the Saved by the Bell kids. And I think the premise was they were like going into the world of like television and video games to explore the new lineup. And Gayest Episode Ever, I believe they did cover that weird special as part of their Weirdest Episode Ever subseries. So check that out. It's worth looking into. It was a very bizarre time.
Oh, nice. Did you know, the NBC block, it could only really pull me in with like because it was where Captain N and Mario lived, right?
Yes, that's the only reason why. So that's why they were like going into video game world or whatever. And in that, so Saved by the Bell did premiere the same year as Captain N, and that held my attention.
And then you were ready to grow up alongside of the Saved by the Bell characters.
Well, they were already significantly older than me.
Yes, that's true. So, of course, baby shows are still doing hot, and Flintstones Kids kind of wrapping up. Tom Ruegger says that the original pitch for more Scooby on the network came from Jenny Trias, the VP of Children's Programming at ABC. She is the woman who J. Michael Straczynski specifically calls out as the person who said, you need to redesign Janine on the Ghostbusters.
Okay, so Enemy of Mankind.
Yes, it's he explains it all, but it's just like, yeah, she was told she needed to be more motherly and friendly to the kids. It's like, that seems sexist the other way around, honestly, in an attempt to not be sexist in 88 terms. It's strange. But so he says that Jenny Trias like trusted him, and she was like, we haven't had Scooby on the network in a little while. We could use new Scooby. Ruegger also says that Jane Barbera, I wonder how she got her job there, the exec in charge of production.
Oh, yeah, that's first credit you see in the end credits.
He says that Jane Barbera liked Tom Ruegger a lot and trusted him as a guy who could hit deadlines, which is what matters most. It is the most employable ability at Hanna-Barbera. Did you hit deadlines? Did you pump out footage? Then you should be in charge of the new Scooby series. Sorry,
I'm just very focused on Saturday morning in that era, and this was the sister show to The Real Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for looking that up. I wondered if this was up against Garfield, because usually I did make time for this, but sometimes I would skip it if it was up against Garfield.
And this was the debut of the new title Slimer in The Real Ghostbusters with the included Slimer shorts.
We talked about that on the Real Ghostbusters one and on the Saturday Morning All-Star Hit Show. Once Slimer took over the show, it was the little brother show, and I did not like it. I turned against it. Actually, this is perfect programming to have this show. I would guess that's probably also what sold it. Let's partner another spooky show with even the same kind of like color design as Ghostbusters right next to it.
Yeah, between 9:30 and 10:30, you're scared out of your wits. And then Bugs Bunny and Tweety will send you to lunchtime.
Oh, God. Again, to complain about Saturday morning things. This is why ABC was low on my list. The Bugs Bunny and Tweety ones, they were all the Frizz Freeling ones, which were like, they're good, but I wanted to see the Chuck Jones or Tex Avery ones or McKimson ones as a kid.
Yeah, when it came to all the syndicated packages, I disliked this one the most because it was all the lower budget 50 shorts. At least that's what it felt like to me, remembering the ones I watched as part of that hour.
Though comparatively, I'd rather watch a 1956 like Bugs versus the Cool Cat cartoons that were on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, but Nickelodeon did incorporate Cool Cat and Bunny and Claude, Merlin the Magician, Ant and the Aardvark. Am I missing any, Henry?
Oh yeah, well, Ant the Aardvark, and then the Pink Panther. That I think of those as like those were always like airing around the same time, but that's MGM. Yeah.
Okay, and the Aardvark is MGM. I apologize. That's on Blu-ray for some reason.
Now I could be mixed up on that, but they're all on the Cartoon Network, the USA Cartoon Express, running through my brain, all jumbled together. So Tom Ruegger sells this as a kid version, and to rejuvenate it, he rightly sees we've done everything we can with Scooby. We got to rejuvenate these characters. And he also had the clever idea that if they were teens in 1969, then if they're 7-8 years younger, if they're like 11, as the show puts them in the pitch doc, then it would be the early 60s. So he wanted a feel of the early 60s while not specifically saying this is 1961 in the series.
Oh, interesting. I was not getting that at all from the show. I guess the soundtrack does inform that choice, but then we have real computers and other modern day being 1988 gadgetry.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's mainly the doo-wop music is the 60s feel. Yes, early 60s feel. And he was also like, well, you know what? These kids will be kids, and so they're not going to be driving around in the Mystery Machine. They're going to have a clubhouse and a treehouse, all these things. And
They have like this cool hot rod skateboard they can all somehow get on.
those were the cool things. Like when you're a kid, you're like, oh man, I wish I had one of those. Like you imagine, like, I mean, it was, if you're a dumb kid like I was, you're like, what if I started a club that solved mysteries and I'd have a secret door in a clubhouse, and then you never do these things, but you can project.
And then you realize, oh, the biggest mystery in my house is where's the remote?
Yes. It's same with like the Muppet Babies were telling me to imagine things and go outside, but I just wanted to watch the next Muppet Babies that was on after that.
They've solved the problem of imagination.
Also, it's funny to look at Scooby-Doo history because as they were making this show, they were hedging their bets. Tom Ruegger talks about how at the time it was several fiefdoms in Hanna-Barbera, like Jane Barbera was making sure everybody hit their deadlines. Bill Hanna was doing a lot of the TV stuff. Then Joe Barbera he had this like TV movie project, basically like doing like a dozen or so TV movies. That's how you end up with the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. That was one of the lead TV movies of that project.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure I didn't see any of these in the original primetime context they existed in. I'm sure I just saw them, oh, we bought the rights to all these cheap Hanna-Barbera movies. Let's show them to you now.
I would see, like the Huckleberry Hound one that's like The Good, the Bad, and the Huck or something it's called. And I was like, wow, there's a 2-hour Huckleberry Hound movie? What?
Yeah, that's why I'm glad that the critic crossover episode of The Simpsons did make fun of the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, because that was a huge letdown to me as a kid.
Oh, man, I treated it like an event when I first saw it, which would have been when the movie was probably like 6 years old, but they just never replayed it. Or maybe I saw it on the shelf, because I will say Hanna-Barbera was smart they make these TV movies and then they discover, oh, we make the most money selling these on VHS. Like the Hanna-Barbera movies, like these Scooby movies, lived on the VHS shelves for years. So, yes, while they were making a pup named Scooby-Doo, they were also making more traditional Scooby-Doo shows as movies, like Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers in 87, 88's Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, and also The Reluctant Werewolf the next year. So a trilogy of Scooby movies.
Yeah, these things did not start with Zombie Island, unfortunately. I think you did watch some of Scooby-Doo in Arabian Nights.
Yes, that really is like the lowest point. Like they put Scooby on ice for 3 or 4 years after Arabian Nights because they really had nowhere else to go until Zombie Island. And Ghoul School also is fun because it's obviously it's them seeing the facts of life. Or no, wait, that's the Girls in School one, isn't it? The Facts of Life?
Yeah,
no.
Facts of Life is the girls in a boarding school show.
Right. So they saw that and were like, what if Scooby visited one, but the girls were all the daughters of monsters? Let's then. So that's what Ghoul School is, which our pals on OKKO did a sequel episode to that in 2018.
And I think one of the OKKO characters is heavily influenced by Velma in this show.
Yes. The Dendy, the girl who's a Kappa in the show, she almost exactly is Velma. You're right. She even has the little walk just like Velma does. And so this is where Tom Ruegger finally broke the mold on the visual development of Scooby-Doo. He's like, look, if they're going to be kids, we have to redesign them. He put out the pages from his pitch document /series Bible, or at least a few of them. So the characters in it are his designs, and they're pretty close to what it ended up with. And he says, like, he wanted it to be Tex Avery meets Charles Schultz. Like, these are the Peanuts. They scream like Peanuts characters sometimes.
Yeah, even if I don't like how they move, these are very attractive character designs. You can see where Tiny Toon Adventures would be the next step from here.
And Ruegger had a funny thing he said. He said, special kudos to Bill Hanna for directing the first episode, and to Joe Barbera for teaching me we needed to use equally wild sound effects whenever we created Tex Avery-style wild takes. That's the way Tex did it, said Joe Barbera.
He was there.
I think that's how Ruegger was able to appeal to the fun stories he has about working with Hanna are just where he's like, I love Tex Avery cartoons, and you worked with him, right? It sounds like that's how kind of the Bill Hanna's like, oh, man, I remember when Tex did that.
You just wind up the old story machine and let him go.
And Bill Hanna, it's crazy. Bill Hanna directed the first episode of this, uncredited. Like, they didn't advertise it. He just was, Tom Ruegger asked him, like, hey, would you like to direct that episode? He's like, You know what? I will. And prove that he could. At 78, he directed the episode.
What did he say? I sure will.
I sure will. Yes. I was doing that scary math, and he's like, Bill Hanna was 78 when this debuted, 7 years older than Matt Groening currently is.
Wow. So Matt Groening is well on his way to being the Hanna or Barbera of his generation.
You know what? I'll say he's the Bill Hanna, and that James L. Brooks is the Joe Barbera, because he's the deal maker than the Bill Hanna.
But at least Groening and James L. Brooks are on speaking terms.
So as far as we know, yes, yeah. Actually, here we make fun of Nepo babies today, but Jane Barbera, I mean, they were doing it back then too.
Mm-hmm. It's all in the family. Hey, it's a family business, like you said.
Yeah. It's it's not Nepo babies when it's a family business. So yeah, the doo-wop music really was the main thing that made it feel 50s or 60s, like early 60s. And also this is where he had to come up with the name of the city they live in. He was like, well, Shaggy always says cool, so it's Coolsville. There we go. That's all the reason it's called Coolsville.
Yeah, that I assume was a Ruger invention, because I was looking up where do the Scooby people live? Did they retain Coolsville after this?
I want to at least say in the Mystery Incorporated show, which is a very grounded, serious Scooby show. It's like a Buffy style show. I think they do still call it Coolsville in the show. I think so. And it's also where he came up with the idea that Shaggy isn't obviously his real name. It's Norville. So Norville is his real name. He's Norville, quote, Shaggy Rogers. And this is also where he credits for the character design Scott Gerald's, Alfred Gimino, and Bob Honorato. Yeah, sorry if I'm mispronouncing those, but the important thing is they don't get any real credit, because Iwo Takamoto gets the consulting credit on it, which honestly sounds like it was mainly a respect thing they gave to him, because he did design the original Scooby-Doo characters and was still an executive there.
Yeah, all the characters are basically dressed the same way with the same choices.
Apparently they wanted him to be more involved, but Tom Ruger, as nicely as he could put it in one interview, was like, we kind of had to bypass him to hit the deadline. He was apparently very slow to approve anything at that time. So they basically just had to be like, yes, thank you, Mr. Takamoto. Okay, let's just approve it over here with Bill. And another thing they wanted to pitch on, especially after having real ghosts in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, he wanted it to be a mystery again. And I think it was ABC that wanted it to be get the kids involved at home and make it an actual solvable mystery that a kid could solve.
Yeah, that was one element of the show I had forgotten about, in how formalized the mystery process is, in which they label the clues, and then there is a PowerPoint at the end that goes over all the clues once again. So it feels like 3 minutes of your show was already written for you based on all the things they have to reiterate, and then you have the montage chase scene at the end too.
It's great. Every episode has actually the Scooby romps, I learned they were called. Those eat up time just as they did in the past too. And they point at the screen to be like, have you figured it out? Just like Dr. Hibbert. And this is where they decided they're going to recast most of the parts, but obviously Casey Kasem and Don Messick, they're staying as Shaggy and Scooby. They're going to be pitched up. Who cares? Shaggy sounds a little weird, that pitched up, but they read as kids to me.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, though, because I feel like they blow some of the other kid actors out of the water, being these seasoned voice actors, especially the voice of Freddy, where I feel like they're writing him in a different way than the voice actor is interpreting the lines. Like, Freddy is supposed to be dumb, but he says everything in this very, just pronouncing everything very loudly.
Yeah, he's, they could have... Honestly, I'd have switched Scott Menville for that character. Scott Menville could have done a fine Freddy, I think.
I think so. I have to assume he auditioned.
Not only that, but Casey Kasem, clearly he's in Don Messick. They've been there long enough. They actually get a real credit in the show, unlike how every voice actor for the entire first season is just in one bucket at the end of the credits.
Yeah. This is just here's everybody that worked on this. Every storyboard artist, every director, 30 voice actors.
You figure it out. Here's a job for you, future IMDb people, to figure out who does what. Tom Ruger then wanted kid actors for the rest of their main roles. First off was Freddy, who he said was really stiff. There was almost nothing you could do with Freddy in the old stuff. So it was his idea to make him a conspiracy theorist who also is stupid and wrong. He's always wrong. He always picks the wrong person. He's the goofus of the show.
Yes, I like that they make Freddy a dum-dum.
And part of being dumb is that he reads UFO magazines and says and believes in horoscopes, as we see in this episode. And it's Carl Steven is the actor, and he got his big break playing young Spock in Star Trek 3. He was Pigpen in a couple of Peanuts, and he was a recurring guest as a teen on the USA TV version of Weird Science.
Yeah, watched a lot of that. Wish that was available on like some kind of Pluto channel or something. I'd like to revisit that show.
And then he had a lot of addiction issues, was arrested in 2009 for armed robbery, and died in prison of a heroin overdose.
I was not expecting to hear that when I looked into his story. Like, what happened to this voice actor? I know Kelly Martin, of course, and a few of the others.
It was extremely shocking. In one of the Ruger interviews I listened to, one of the interviewers very tactlessly told him, "Hey, did you hear that the original Freddy died of a heroin overdose?" And he's like, "No, I hadn't." And I was like, "Boy, I hope that guy's just wrong." And I was like, "Nope, the guy's not wrong." I felt bad for Tom Ruger if that's how he learned about it. If you thought, "Oh, this child I cast and had probably some attachment to died in prison of a heroin overdose," that would be very upsetting to learn.
It's not as wholesome as the world of Scooby-Doo.
And clearly, he did not listen to the "Don't Do Drugs" episode of this season with the headless skateboarder.
And I believe Scooby is saying rugs a lot.
Oh yes, yeah. It's also funny. It's full. That was a maybe on the list because it is funny to hear Shaggy, of all characters, be like, "Oh man, drugs? No way." But Ruger, his favorite kid voice actor, he shouted out in multiple interviews, was Kelly Martin, who he cast as Daphne, who's now a rich girl skeptic. It's a fun combo that she is both a kind of clueless rich girl, well, as in clueless of her class, but also the big skeptic of the show who doesn't believe in ghosts, even when sometimes they meet a real ghost.
Also, very prissy.
Yeah, which is not like Daphne is just a nice girl. That's all Daphne is in most of the old stuff.
And of course, she would go on to be. She's Roxanne in a Goofy movie, Kelly Martin, or is she the friend?
No, she's Roxanne.
Okay.
Many a millennial's dream girl is Kelly Martin. And she did a kid actor in Troop Beverly Hills and Jumpin' Jack Flash. She'd be in the movie Matinee after this, and also she was on a couple of seasons of ER, and I learned that her character is horribly murdered in an episode.
A lot of characters die on ER. I only watched a few seasons of it.
And she's also a Hallmark Movies superstar. She's the star of a series of Haley Dean Mysteries, or the name of it. So she's solving mysteries even in live action as a Hallmark star. And then when it came to Velma, Tom Ruger's original idea was Velma will never say anything other than jinkies, which is almost what she does in this episode.
Yeah, it's Velma is almost nonverbal to a certain extent, and then she talks a bit more when she says jinkies, but they're impressed when she actually talks.
He wanted it to just be all she says is jinkies, and then everybody will extrapolate from it, or also the computer she pulls out will actually explain what she's saying jinkies about. He really wanted that, but the other writers on the show felt it was too constrictive. They're like, no, she's got to say more stuff than that. And her voice actor is Christina Lang. She did a bunch of kids' stuff. She was Sister Bear in a lot of episodes of the Berenstain Bears in our universe. I kid. That's a silly thing.
I grew up in the Stein universe. I'm sorry.
If you asked me to write it out before this thing became a thing, I would have said it was Stein. I was sure it was Stein before.
Me too. But at some point we did change universes.
And also in the TMS animated Peter Pan and the Pirates on Fox Kids, she was Wendy on that show. And then as far as I can see, she just stopped doing stuff. She hasn't done anything since. I couldn't find any interviews with her. Let's assume there were no problems in her life and she lived happily from then on.
She did not die in prison.
And who can forget Red Herring, the guy who's always guilty every episode, voiced by Scott Menville, who we all know and love. We love him.
Yes, we talked a lot about Scott Menville because, of course, he's Kevin on Mission Hill.
And he has been a voice actor since he was 8. He's in a 1979 Scrappy-Doo cartoon, and he was Kid Fred Flintstone a little before this. If you knew him in live action, maybe you knew him as Kimmy Gibbler's boyfriend, Dwayne, in Full House.
I'm sure I saw him a ton of times on that show. And he's still Robin on Teen Titans, right?
Yeah, for basically half of our lives, he has been playing Robin, either in Teen Titans or in the only show that's on Cartoon Network, Teen Titans Go.
Yeah. That show's been on the air for over 20 years.
And it's with new episodes, too. Like, they last year celebrated a 400th episode.
Jesus Christ.
I did watch that 400th episode. It's very funny that it starts with basically Robin and the rest of the gang dancing in the face and shoving it in the face of all the other DC characters of like, this is the longest running DC cartoon now, even more than all of the DCAU. Like, he kind of points like at you and making fun of you as a fanboy too, of just like, really more than the DCAU now? This is insane.
It does make me feel incredibly old because it seems like a new show to me, and this show is 12 years old. And I remember watching a bit of the original as somebody in my early 20s and thinking, well, they're trying to kind of do anime and it's not really working, but there's enough here for me to enjoy.
I guess Teen Titans Go is kind of the pup named Scooby-Doo of that franchise too, isn't it?
I can see that. Yeah, it's cartoony. It's weird. It's some big, bold ideas.
And there's a ton of other voices in there you'd recognize too, like Charlie Adler. It's one of the earlier Charlie Adler roles. The original the second Velma is in here too, BJ Ward, who's Betty Rubble. She's done a lot of Betty Rubble, BJ Ward. And also, much like how Tom Ruger is too good for this show, Andrea Romano is the casting and voice director on this. Tom Ruger very smartly took her with him to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I did notice that in the credits, and I noticed a lot of artists, voice actors, other people who would eventually work on Silver Age Warner Brothers stuff with Tom Ruger in the 90s.
When Tom Ruger heard Charlie Adler play Greasy in this, he's like, that is the lead of our series. Mm-hmm. That right there. And the composer on the show is John Debney, who he's done 8 million things. Like, we talked about him on Emperor's New Groove. He was a composer for that. He did Iron Man 2. He did 2024's The Garfield movie. So he's worked with Mark Dindal a whole lot, actually.
So I assume this is probably an early role for him.
Yes, yeah. Again, these are all people who are too good for Hanna-Barbera and who eventually will leave it. He's, though he was told, do Little Shop of Horrors. Like, that's literally, like Ruger said, can you just do that? And he did.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask about that because Audrey, too, sings the theme song, not actually the voice actor. In fact, nobody actually knows who sung this opening theme, but they're going for that vibe.
Yes, yeah. That movie came out in 86, as we covered on What a Cartoon Movie. So they're in the afterglow of this. As a kid, by 88, when I was watching this, I think I had seen the movie on HBO. So I wonder if that was part of the appeal of the show to me, was hearing this type of, Ronettes style, like Motown-y, doo-wop-y type of music as the backbone of the show.
Yeah, I think I definitely made the connection, not even knowing this is old music.
It's just like, oh, this sounds like snapping and going doop beep doop beep boop. That's just appealing to me. Apparently, Ruger also said everybody but the composer fought him on this to get this music, because he said that I heard this as well from Mark Evanier about other things, that Hanna-Barbera hated crosstalk because they're like, it's hard to sound edit to that. And here they're like, well, not only is there going to be dialogue, but also characters will be saying doopy doo 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 over people talking.
Yeah, that's a choice I don't think I've seen before this. Just like the constant doo-wop singing over dialogue.
It does feel too creative for the way Hanna-Barbera ran at the time. Like, you could see it. You can understand why it was such a hard fight for Ruger to get to do that.
The brass were like, why are you trying to make a good cartoon? It doesn't matter.
And also, like he would do with his future openings, Tom Ruger wrote the lyrics for the intro that explain everything. And one of the fun things he shared in a history of the piece, he shared the original release that he signed, that he says he regrets every day, saying that this was a work-for-hire job and that Hanna-Barbera owns all the rights to this song.
Actually, I don't want any royalties. It's nice of you to ask. Yeah, this is a great opening theme. There's a key change in it and everything. It's not as great as Tiny Toon Adventures theme or Animaniacs, but it's approaching that. It's very clever.
You can definitely tell that Hanna-Barbera learned that Chaim Saban and Shuki Levy made really good money off of getting the songwriting rights to all their Deke stuff. So they're like, well, that's not happening here. We own these songs. And Tom Ruger jokes that he's like, boy, I really should have at least called a lawyer before I signed this thing, because they would have told me, don't sign this.
Always call a lawyer if you're arrested or if you're signing a deal with Hanna-Barbera.
You got to get at least one lawyer in the room, and call a public defender if you can't afford a lawyer. And also he's like, I want to bring back the you know that bit that Scooby-Doo ripped off of the Archies? Let's bring that back. The romps. And I think he wrote the lyrics for these romps too, though. I mean, like the one you hear in this, they just stole Rolling on a River. Like,
yeah. They're not even like writing a full song. It's just like here's like a third of a song they can run around to, mostly a refrain.
And this was animated overseas by Hanna-Barbera favorite Wang Films, though this time they've got a sub-brand Cuckoo's Nest, so they don't have to have like Wang on screen, is what I figure is why it's called that.
Yes. Enough of this Wang. We're trying to make a kids show.
And this was when Canadian animator Glenn Kennedy enters the picture.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
My mouth is drooping. My shoulders are shrugging. My palms are curled outwards. My fingers are curled up.
Though also he loves a big point, like a giant finger point, too.
Yeah.
He loves those. Yeah.
If you try to imitate with your own body, you will suffer.
Yeah, Glenn Kennedy, I wish somebody had interviewed him out there. I was able to explore his LinkedIn some, but he doesn't share too much. But yeah, I believe he's from Ontario. But the interesting thing was, like, at this time, he seemed to be the guy Hanna-Barbera would trust with, if you want to live in Taiwan or Korea all year round and be the guy who supervises these things, that's your job, buddy. And so, like, that's, I think, how he makes the connections to a year after this airs, starting his own Kennedy Tunes to just, he's like, why don't I just hire the Korean or Taiwan staff myself and subcontract instead?
Yeah, and the animation is so distinct. I'm not a fan of it, obviously, but it does bring me back to an era in which, like, 1 out of every 10 episodes of a popular show would look like this, and you'd be like, what's going on here? And I think it's because Tiny Toon Adventures used so many animation studios, and they all had such different takes on the characters. That's when I started paying attention and started watching the credits and saying, okay, who did the animation here? And that's when I was able to decide at the age of 10, I don't like Kennedy. Yes. I hate that Peter and the Wolf Tiny Toon Adventures. That's one of the worst things I've ever done.
Oh, yeah. Man, that sucked. Well, also, you could, I mean, there's a reason they used TMS for the opening on Tiny Toons, because it looked the best. And then once you would go from that to, like, the jailbreak episode that the Kennedys did as well, that Glenn Kennedy's studio did too, you're like, oof, boy, oof. Or also, like, Glenn Kennedy got to win an Emmy, a daytime Emmy for Tiny Toons, because he animated the, like, origin episode of the show, even though it's like such a crummy one compared to the other episodes in the first year.
Yeah, some part of me thought they were fired from the show, but it was really just a case of the team not ordering any more episodes through them. It might have been a cost thing, but I think Ruger preferred the TMS look, but understood that we can't just get everything through TMS. They're too busy and they're too expensive.
Yeah, I think in the few interviews I pulled up again for this, Ruger seemed to be like talking around it, but it definitely was my impression was that he worked with Kennedy on this and he's like, okay, let's hire him for the first season. And their output on the first set of episodes of Tiny Toons made them not hired for the second set of episodes. It just wasn't renewed. Fired is, yeah, it wasn't a firing. Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to type in Tiny Toons Kennedy, and then you're going to find so many amazing screenshots. Part of me also thinks, like, it was fun when something could look this weird. And now things are just so locked down because we're not getting these 65 episodes ordered that have to roll out over the course of a year or 13 weeks in this case. But yeah, I'm glad that they decided to go with other animation studios eventually.
It's why our pals on OKKO made fun of it as the kick dance. This is where the kick dance is like invented here almost, like, or formalized, like these in the romps. I don't think we see it as much in this episode, but it's like the kick dance is what Shaggy and Scooby mainly do in the show.
Yeah, I recall a lot of reuse footage of just spotlighting a character doing a crazy dance in an abstract background so I can kind of slot it in anywhere. That's not happening in this one, at least. Maybe by season 2, they want to make the show for a little cheaper.
They also had the abstract backgrounds. I think it worked because this was season 1 is a digital ink and paint show. After season 1, if you find any cells out there of a pup named Scooby-Doo, they should be from after season 1. The digital ink and paint actually has another funny Ruger story because he says that Bill Hanna would always tell him, cut around it. Ruger would see the most like terrible animation errors in the stuff that would come back on shows before Pup. And he'd be like, please, can I order this? And Hannah would be like, you ordered too many retakes. Just cut around it. Who cares if it's missing the top of their head?
Yeah, the digital stuff in this doesn't look bad for 88. I know they were doing it as early as the Jetsons in the 80s when they did the reboot of the Jetsons, or just to push it into syndication with a ton of episodes. But I think things made a decade later could look worse than this. They're obviously showing off in the intro with all the digital like push-ins and zooms and things like that.
So many composited layers. And this was like this would be 2 years before the 1990 debut of the Caps animated Rescuers Down Under. So Hanna-Barbera were early investors in Digital Ink and Paint. It's also why in the credits a whole page of it is just the computer team, including like a doctor of computer. I would guess he has a doctorate in computer science who designed the system they're using for the digital compositing in this. And the dancing also is funny. Ruger says what they did was him and other staff members basically just filmed themselves doing Peanuts dances and then sent that to Kennedy and said, draw these dances.
Wow. So all the kick dances we've seen in Kennedy throughout the years could have been Tom Ruger or one of his friends just approximating Peanuts. I wasn't even thinking of Peanuts, but it's totally right.
Oh, I mean, especially Velma. When I had that in mind, like Velma's like moving. Sorry, it's bad mic technique for me to move my head back and forth.
Henry's bouncing his head from shoulder to shoulder.
Yes. And so they work on the whole season. The first season is coming out. This has the fame of being the first Scooby-Doo show in 20 years to get nominated for a daytime Emmy. It had never even been Emmy nominated before, Scooby-Doo.
Do you know what the competition was for that?
I know the winner. It was The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh defeated it.
Well, you can't beat that because that is Walt Disney Japan or TMS before a bunch of people left TMS to do Walt Disney Japan. And
it also it both looks good. It's Winnie the Pooh who doesn't love him, and probably it had like good social messaging as well. But
so wait, are you telling me, Henry, that Pooh beat Doo?
Pooh beat Doo. You're right. Yeah, the Pooh beat the Doo. By the time it was nominated, though, Tom Ruger was already out of town because Gene McCurdy, the former Hanna-Barbera exec that he had worked with a bunch, she had been put in charge of Warner Animation, and she said, hey, you know how you made a kid's version of Scooby-Doo? Could you do that with the Looney Tunes? But that idea would never work, obviously.
No. Miserable failure. Never got off the ground.
And I think that was from your Tiny Toons history that, like, they originally were going to do it as, like, little bugs, but then they couldn't get like the ad teams to agree to let bugs do certain things, so they just were like, fine, make them originals.
I mean, I totally forget what the deal was, but I think it was also them being very, very business savvy, and I think Spielberg realized if we create our own original characters, we get all the money.
Oh, right.
I guess Lil Bugs would be a distinct version of Bugs Bunny, but you probably cannot wholly own that character as your original creation. Like I can't make Little Homer.
You know, it's sad. I only watched one episode of that Acme University show. I'm sure everybody worked very hard on it, but I never heard much about it, I have to say.
Well, it was buried on Max, right?
Yeah, actually, maybe it's even been delisted or thrown in the tax fire by now. I don't even know. It was weird. Like, Animaniacs took all the thunder, and then it's like, well, we made more Tiny Toons as well, but once I heard that Buster and Babs were related, I was like, well, okay, well, you've lost me.
You've ruined it. All my fan fiction cannot be published anymore. No, I mean it looked good. The big hype was behind Animaniacs, especially that first season. And then, honestly, folks, I did not pursue the last couple of seasons of that show, and I know they're just kind of waiting for me there, and they're going to look very good and be very funny and have great music. But I just never sought them out. I think it's because like Animaniacs reboot kicked off the pandemic.
That was rough, yes, to be watching that in like, I feel like it was like April or May of 2020 we were watching it. It was rough time.
It might have been like right before Christmas, but then it felt like they were just getting through the rest of the episodes as things were calming down a bit. But I really want to go back to those.
I remember Pinky and the Brain held up better than the Animaniacs because it's an infallible formula, the Pinky and the Brain. And so losing Ruger, I always thought that's why there's problems with the next 3 years of Pup Named Scooby-Doo and how they made 14 episodes in 3 years, which is very strange. I figured it was because they lost Ruger, but that's not entirely what I found, actually.
Okay, I'm curious about that because when we do animation history, we look at episode orders, and it seems kind of normal sometimes for a network to order 4 episodes of something in a year around this time, if it's an established series.
You're right, Bob. This was a little bit of the thinking like kids don't know when an episode's new anyway. So if we say in 1990, if ABC only orders 3 episodes of a pup named Scooby-Doo, if you mix it in with the old ones, kids won't know the difference. It'll just feel kind of new to them. So this comes from a different interview with the guy who followed Ruger as a showrunner, Lane Rasher, who's one of the writers he was in the main story writing team even in the first season. Like, you see him in the story by credit for this episode, for instance. And he says that it was a mix of things. One, that ABC seemingly had a smaller budget. They order 8 in 1989 for that fall, then just 3 in 90 and 3 in 91, and then they're kind of done with it. And so he said it was partially that ABC was holding back money and didn't want to order as many, but also ABC was given a crazy deal on the Pirates of Dark Water. We talked about a little in the Fievel one. David Kirshner, the co-creator of Fievel, he gets put in charge of Hanna-Barbera in 1988, and his dream series is the Pirates of Dark Water. He thinks he's like, this is going to be my He-Man meets Lord of the Rings.
People really love that show, and it's been a constant request on What a Cartoon.
I think we should do it someday, but it is like, it also is a serialized adventure, which was not done on Saturday morning back then either. And like Kirshner believed in it so much that this is what at least Lane Rasher says, is that Kirshner came to ABC with, we will give you Pirates of Dark Water at no cost if you just air it to get it out there so we can start selling the toys. And so when it's like, well, if we can have this Dark Water show for nothing, or we have to pay production for Pup, guess which they're going to buy less of. So that's why they kind of, but the second, third, and fourth season of Scooby-Doo, which all fit on like one DVD set, I still think they know what they're doing. They also do like 11-minute format for some episodes too. It's that I'm not totally sure why they were switching it up that way.
Yeah, but like, despite how long it was on TV, just 30 episodes or 27 or something like that?
Yeah, only 27, despite being on TV for 4 years. It felt so much longer. I feel like every time I look up the episode list, I'm like, boy, it really felt like there were more episodes than that. Though I think, too, the rerun ability of it, they're like, well, just package it with other Scooby shows. It'll get to 65 for a syndication package.
Stick it inside the giant Scooby ball we roll at children.
Or they even would just call it like the Hanna-Barbera afternoon party or whatever.
Yeah, or on cable. Nobody cared about cable, especially in those early days. That's why I watched so much of this. And it wasn't part of any kind of Scooby block. It was like, no, we're just going to run the 27 episodes all summer long. What are you going to do? Leave your television?
It must have done good ratings on Cartoon Network when we were kids too. Like, just because it stood out from all of the other Hanna-Barbera oldies that were on the network.
Yeah, I saw that it was on Cartoon Network for a very long time.
Also, Rasher had an interesting thing I learned about the writing structure on all Hanna-Barbera shows back then, because he says, I wouldn't say I or any Hanna-Barbera producer in those days ran the show inside of the old production system. It was more of a shared production line, with the studio assigning collaborating supervisors to oversee the two main areas of the conveyor belt: story, scripts, and production, everything else. Hanna-Barbera production model back then was less creator-driven than how many studios do it today. If anything, network executives and story editors ran the shows more than the producers at Hanna-Barbera. So an interesting insight in how it was made. But as it kind of just winds down, I think by 91, like it's an old show. They got enough episodes. And I mean, also by 1991 is the year of like Nicktoons. It's the year of like the Turtles are very strong. Like actually the Turtles are starting to wane. Batman's coming the next year. Like Pup Named Scooby-Doo feels a little old at that time.
Yeah, and ABC, I kind of forget what was going on with their Saturday morning stuff between this and One Saturday Morning. One Saturday Morning is when they recruit a bunch of WB people to make shows for them, including Paul Rugg. I don't know if Tom Ruger was along for the ride, but a lot of Silver Age WB folks went over.
Yeah, Rugg was all over it. Like he got to be an on-screen like personality on One Saturday Morning. Yeah. The only other thing I remember from this era was like, well, because we talked about it in our Beetlejuice one, is that like Beetlejuice hopped from ABC to Fox, right?
Yeah, I think they were still doing short seasons on ABC, but then Fox was like, how about you make 65 of these in a year? Let's go.
Because we got Tom and Jerry kids on here, and oof, whoa boy, we need the B-Man to save us. And yeah, I think though losing Ruger really did make things rough for Scooby, because if they'd have kept him, though there's no way, even if they offered him a raise, it's like Hey, do you want to keep working on Scooby-Doo and be the master of Scooby-Doo? Or do you want to work for Steven fucking Spielberg and restart Warner Animation? Which would you pick?
Hanna-Barbera or Steven Spielberg? You know what? This is tough. Give me a couple weeks.
So, but losing Ruger, he kind of was the head of Scooby, and you can see that Scooby-Doo is like lost after this. What should have been the thing that like reignited Scooby-Doo popularity, like there isn't new Scooby-Doo really for several years. There's the Arabian Nights thing, which is just like total junk and completely misunderstands why anybody likes Scooby-Doo. And it isn't until the Gen X ironic love of it on Cartoon Network reruns kind of then turns into the Zombie Island movie, which is like anime and postmodern, that they find what they want to do with Scooby-Doo again.
Even cynical elder millennials loved it, like me and you.
Yes. Yeah, really groovy. I also think they were kind of stuck because when Turner bought them, Hanna-Barbera, they knew Scooby was like a big deal, but they weren't sure what they wanted Scooby to be, and he did still sell a lot of t-shirts. So it's the same with like the Flintstones couldn't be anything fun for the longest time because it has to sell cereals and vitamins. You can't do a fun Flintstones thing.
Oh, by the way, I was wondering what happened to ABC Saturday mornings between this and One Saturday Morning. A complete brain fart, because it is things like Darkwing Duck and Goof Troop and The Addams Family and Reboot and Bump in the Night and Sonic the Hedgehog. They found interesting things to present to us.
Oh, yeah. You know, that's the one Reboot. Thank you for bringing that up, which we also covered. That was the one other thing that pinged for me in Google when I looked up the executive, Jenny Trias, who ordered the show. There's a joke in the first season of Reboot of something called the Trias effect, which is their internal joke about how she changed the ending of an episode, but only for how it aired on ABC. If you watched it in Canada, it was not changed. And they called it was changed by the Trias effect, meaning she made them change it.
Did she make them give Dot one row of breasts instead of having two distinct breasts, just having a breast shelf?
I would bet she had many things to say about the boobs on that show, but I think this one was a violence-related one. I think that ending, but and same with like in that Reboot show we talked about like the BS&P. They had an entire song about how much they hated working with the broadcast standards and practices. And you know what? I see that leaking into this episode of Scooby-Doo, a pup named Scooby-Doo as well. Mainly when the very limited cartoon violence that happens in this episode.
Yeah, I noticed that when they go into a treasure chest, they make sure to draw a bunch of air holes in the treasure chest, just so you're not like, oh, this looks fun, I want to seal myself in an airtight box.
Holy shit, you're so right. That totally is another note. Oh, man, this also, like, when I did a He-Man episode with, on Gayest Episode Ever, I noticed that even in that, they had a line where, like, Skeletor hits He-Man with a freeze ray, and he says, and he's suffering no pain, but he will never escape this. Like, he had to say, like, this is not painful, and I am not hurting him.
He doesn't like it for some reason. I don't know why.
And A Pup Named Scooby-Doo has had like general references in the many reflective Scooby-Doo specials and comics and movies since then, and its lore is built into the show. Like there's many callbacks to it, like whenever you hear about Coolsville or Norville being Shaggy's name, or even Freddy being like a stupid idiot instead of just boring, those things are thanks to this show.
Yeah, I guess it's Tom Ruger saying, let's turn this sketch into a complete idea.
Let's actually have a town where they live. Let's build it out like this is a comic book, a consistent universe, and Scooby-Doo was all the better for it. So why don't we take a quick break, and when we return, we'll hang out with a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Come back for more Commander Cool and Mellow Mutt and A Pup Named Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network.
Oh, you can't take a look. Like we're going to be on TV, Scoop. Yeah. He likes it. Hiya! Like fire. She likes it. They all love it. It's radical. You'll love it, too. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo today.
Welcome to the break, everybody, and I swear this is Henry Gilbert, not Red Herring, welcoming you to the break.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Rob Rackey. Excuse me, Bob Mackey, and I'll do anything for a Mackey snack.
And thanks again for listening to this week's episode of What a Cartoon, where we're finally covering a pup named Scooby-Doo. And we're only able to do this as our full-time jobs and cover these cornerstones of American animation, which Pup Named Scooby-Doo is, thanks to the supporters at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
That's right. If you want to support the show and get a ton of bonus stuff on top of that, head on over to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons and sign up for just $5 a month. And when you do, you get all the podcasts you love ad-free and 1 week ahead of time, and also access to a vast back catalog over 8 years worth of miniseries episodes, over 200 to date. We've covered things like Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. And on top of all of the old miniseries we've done for the past 8 years, you also get a new episode of both Talking the Hill and Talking Futurama every month. It's a incredible bang for your buck at only $5 a month, and that's happening only at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. And there is a $10 level too. When you sign up for that, you get all the $5 stuff naturally, but you also get one immensely huge podcast once a month for patrons of that level. What's going on there, Henry?
Bob is referring to the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, which we have done so many years and years of them. Our most recent one this month, we're going to be covering for October, The Fantastic Mr. Fox. And just last month, we covered The Lego Movie. And those are just our two most recent ones. You know, we talked about doing Scooby-Doo Zombie Island as well in this episode, and we've done a lot of horror ones, usually timed for October or September, such as Paranorman from Laika and The Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride, which we didn't much care for. But we had a ton of fun talking about all of those. And that's just the most recent things. Sign up today to not only get all the ad-free bonuses Bob just mentioned, but hundreds of hours of exclusive podcasts of us going super deep in the history for 5 or even 6 hours long. Studio Ghibli, Pixar, Disney, Warner, so many things covered, even Shrek. It's all there at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for a Patreon before, it's so easy to do. And as soon as you sign up, you can listen to all of our bonus podcasts the same way you listen to all of your regular podcasts with any app or device you might have. It's all part of your podcasting lifestyle. We fit neatly into that. And if you don't want to use your regular podcast app, Patreon has an app for any smart device you might have, so it's very easy to access all of our podcasts that way too. But no matter which way you do it, it's very easy to access all of the great podcasts waiting for you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Zoinks, that sounds incredible, doesn't it? So sign up today and you'll be saying jinkies. And now let's get back to a pup named Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
What's frightful, yet delightful? You've got it! It's Slimer and the real Ghostbusters. Then party hardy with a real crack-up.
Okay.
It's a pup named Scooby-Doo after Slimer and the real Ghostbusters today.
We now return to a pup named Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, 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 Scooby-Doo.
There's a mystery in town, so call the coolest pup around. Oh, Scooby, a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Ha! Join Shaggy and the crew, Daphne, Freddy, Velma too, and Scooby, a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Okay, and we are back with the classic pup named Scooby-Doo theme song. I mean, it's great. It's everything I love about a Ruger theme song. It talks to me. It explains the show. It has jokes. It's a good theme song.
And they're telling me I can help them solve the crime.
I better stick with them or they won't solve this crime without me. I found a Reddit that's like, I think it's this guy, but I have seen no actual like proof of who sang this song that I could find either.
Yeah, there's still a lot of speculation.
Well, because if they credited him, they'd have to pay the person. And that's not going to happen.
I think he signed that same agreement that Tom Ruger did.
Yep, work for hire forever. Like, yeah, it's that's the songwriting bucks. That's where the money is. Like, we just did a Talking Simpsons where Bill and Josh were saying, like, the Sound of Grandpa, Sounds of Silence parody, they made more money residual-wise off of that than any script they wrote of classic Simpsons. Speaking of writing scripts, this one has the story by credit of Bill Matheny, Lane Richer, who would, again, be the showrunner of the second season, and Laren Bright. I believe that they're all men. And they were the story editors with Ruger on it. And then you've got Jim Ryan with the teleplay credit.
Yeah, I briefly looked into some of these folks. I guess the show is 40 years old, but I was shocked to see the teleplay credit. Jim Ryan, is that the guy's name?
Yes, yeah.
Born in the 30s.
Yes. I feel like almost everybody is dead when I look them up in the writing section. Yeah, I mean, this Bright and Matheny, they're just like Ruger and Rasher as well, which is just they came up in the late 70s and early 80s and mainly only worked on Hanna-Barbera stuff. Like Matheny did freelance on Street Sharks, which we also covered. His most recent credit was on Hi Hi Puffy Amiyumi in 2006.
So yeah, retired, I guess. And I guess Ruger is probably retired by now too.
In one recent-ish interview I watched, Ruger was like, "Hey, if you got a job offer, I'm listening." But he seems also he's doing so many cons these days. It definitely makes me think that he's retired. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I always see, because I follow Tom Ruger and Paul Rugg. They always make appearances together at various conventions. So he's doing the con circuit now, which he's deserved it to just have fans tell him how great he is in various locations.
He gets to be in the Bill Hanna mode now of like telling the same story in every town. No, I should look into when if they ever come into my neighborhood. I don't know if I'd travel to see them just because they're so available. It seems like they'll probably come to within a 50-mile radius of Seattle, I'd bet.
Oh, and by the way, Road Rovers is in his Twitter bio, so he is a Road Rovers man. Potential furry, Tom Ruger. We can ask him.
And Laren Bright also pretty much ended their career. Back in 2001 was their most recent credit. Also, Bright has a few story by credits in early Batman the Animated Series before they really knew what they wanted it to be when Tom Ruger was kind of running it. So those are the biggest bits from Lauren Bright. And yes, Jim Ryan, an old man, his earliest credit, or not earliest, but like this guy worked on the Archie cartoons and Fat Albert. Like that's how long ago that guy worked.
He needed a paycheck.
And he's one of the credited creators of the 1995 What a Cartoon pilot Yoink of the Yukon, one of the less successful What a Cartoons. When I pulled it up, it instantly came back to me, but I had completely forgotten it as a kid.
So what is it called again?
Yoink of the Yukon. It's a Mountie cartoon.
Yoink of the Yukon. A lot of these, you felt like they were giving some old men one last shot. Yes. It looks very Hanna-Barbera-y. In not a great way.
No, and it's like 1995, and they cannot keep up with like, a credit to things like Yucky Duck, which also didn't make it, but at least it like was trying to be the 90s and like be a gross cartoon with boogers and stuff. This is just like, oh, it's a funny animal who's the sidekick of a guy. It could have been made in 1978. Also, the voice acting is great in it, but you can tell they had a budget because Charlie Adler and Rob Paulson are it. They do every voice in it.
Yeah, I guess if you hire one of them, you can't hire really anyone else.
Though, I mean, Yoink of the Yukon is voiced by Rob Paulson, and so is his main antagonist in it. And it's very distracting. But the main joke of it is that it's extremely Canadian, that almost every character says A at the end of every line. That's the main joke. And yes, he passed away in 2022. And meanwhile, I don't know who directed this one. There's 6 credited directors on this. It was just assigned anonymous. Same with Borders. They don't get credited either. I know Hanna-Barbera directed the first episode. Now, the supervising director is Ray Patterson, though he was supervising director on every show that came out that in that decade at Hanna-Barbera. So I feel like it's more of an executive position.
Yeah, just like the head of a studio department.
And Ray Patterson is a huge deal in animation history. Like he lived to be 90. He's 77 when we worked on this. His first job at animation was in 1929. Like he is a Wilbur Cobb.
God, I assume he did fight in the Great War.
He animated on Fantasia and Dumbo.
Wow.
And then here he is in 1988 saying like, this is what the Samurai Ghost should look like. Yes, he worked with Tex Avery. He worked on Tom and Jerry Classics. And that's why he had a job for life at Hanna-Barbera, because he animated on Oscar-winning Tom and Jerry cartoons. If Hanna and Barbera can trust you, and or Barbera can trust you, you got a job for life pumping out crap for decades.
Yeah, he didn't wrong them in any way.
Seemingly not. Yeah. And yes, you get to see all the digital compositing there. And then after the opening where the opening also explains everybody's character in an easy way of like, Velma's not scared. She says jinkies. as you'll see in this episode, Velma is the only character that needs to exist. She does everything.
Yeah. Everyone else just kind of putters around, and she's like, okay, let me get to my computer here. We'll figure things out. And then they find exactly what they need. Like, here's what the clue means. Here's a secret door.
Yeah, it's crazy how Velma does everything in this. It's like she doesn't have jokes, but she does every plot necessary thing. You would think somebody else would tie up the ghost or somebody else would unmask the ghost, but she does all of the things.
And she also has Bam Bam strength, which I forgot about.
I don't think that has stayed consistent with Velma's character. She always said Jinkies, but other characters said Jinkies too. I think this film formalized Jinkies as Velma's thing.
It could be one of those things where if you go back, you find out, oh, they said Jinkies 3 times on original Scooby-Doo, but it was such a weird word that somebody decided to drill down on it and it became the thing that they say.
She dropped her glasses more than she said Jinkies. If you were to look it up and count it, I wonder, Scooby fans. I didn't look into the origins of Jinkies. I did do some research on the origins of a different thing in this episode that I had to ask Thad, our cartoon historian pal Thad Komorowski, for some info. He knew instantly what I was asking about the second I asked.
That's our Thad.
But we start with some very superfluous narration. I wondered if it came in after the fact of Shaggy explaining, like, here's where we are and this is what we're doing.
Like, some of these kids can't read, man.
Yeah, I know, right? And like, if you took it out and Freddy just said, boy, Shaggy and Scooby are going to miss that, that is a fine opening line.
Yeah, they also added, there's some, okay, so I'm stumbling over my words here, but the main issue with a lot of this show is I can kind of see like the joke they're trying to tell, but the execution is bad. It's either like a weird lack of timing, or the animation instructions weren't executed in the right way overseas. And in this case, it's more like, well, what are they trying to get at? Because Shaggy mentions that it's a museum where they let the kids touch everything. But then when you go to the museum, it's actually just like the Smithsonian. And there are signs up saying you can't touch anything. So I thought like, oh, are they going to a children's museum where you kind of play with all the exhibits? But no.
I guess you do need Shaggy's narration to be like, actually, the joke is we can't touch anything. Get it?
Yeah, I guess maybe the joke is Shaggy has a misunderstanding as to what the museum is. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. This is the first of several jokes timing and execution. That's Tom Ruger will have the budget and time for that on Tiny Toons much better than he did on this show. So this is where Shaggy and Scooby jump into the episode explaining what kind of ghost we'll be seeing.
Like the gang and I were on a class field trip to the Coulsonian Museum where they let us kids touch everything there. Well, almost everything. And I was going to enjoy the sights with a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Wow, Shaggy and Scooby better hurry up or they'll miss the museum tour.
Hi-ya! Like this is a job for Shaggy and Scooby, samurai sushi masters.
Samurai sushi master.
Oh, please, you two. You better lay off the Karate Kitty comic books.
Like no way, Daphne. Scoob and I can't wait to see the samurai exhibit.
Come on, gang. Let's catch up with the rest of the tour.
And that's when they do their walk cycle animation into the next room.
Yeah, and because the original Scooby-Doo was written by people born in the 20s or earlier, Shaggy, all of his snacks were classic old man snacks that still exist in this era too, where I don't know why, but when they are the samurai sushi masters, they're swinging around sausages.
Oh yeah, that is kind of lost on me. Why they don't even eat them? The sausages vanish after this.
But I guess this eventually becomes an important clue. Shaggy's kimono that he's wearing. When they kept bringing it up, I was like, what kimono? What are they talking about? Then I just remember it was for the sake of this gag. And honestly, when these characters change costumes to do a bit, I'm not thinking that's a real piece of clothing they had to bring from home. I'm thinking they pulled this out of subspace for the sake of a joke.
No, yeah, this is something that makes it a hard thing to do as an actual mystery, because when you can, as we'll see later, when Shaggy's backpack can contain an entire refrigerator, or Scooby can run back with a full dresser drawer, then what is like there was a kimono there and that person noticed it? What a clue. Like, how can a kid read that as a clue and not as a joke, right?
Yeah. I guess, the cartooniness makes it more entertaining, but you need something to hold on to for the sake of a mystery.
And I like that Scooby is following traditional Scooby rules, which is Scooby is more like a bird than that it repeats back. Scooby repeats back what he heard. He doesn't often say something that Shaggy doesn't say first. Including Ramarai Rushi Rasters, which he adds R's to everything, so it's not culturally insensitive.
No, although I wouldn't do that in the Japanese exhibit. People will think you're being offensive on purpose.
Mr. Kai should give him like a side eye a couple times, like, "Hey, what the fuck?"
Well, Mr. Kai is teaching these kids incorrect Japanese to start things off here.
It is rough when the first thing is konnichiwa and that's good morning, and me as a weeb going like, "Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so."
We all know it's Ohio. Throw in a gozaimasu if you want.
I would bet the actress probably was like, this should be Ohio, and they're like, "That's going to confuse kids. They'll think they mean the state. They can't do that."
Yeah, honestly, I think that's part of it, which is why they never use the word sarcophagus in this episode either. They say it's the mummy case.
That's a good point. I wonder if that was like also a standards and practices of like, well, a sarcophagus means a coffin. Like, that's too scary.
It could be like a taste issue too. But yeah, honestly, this konnichiwa thing, I think it is because, okay, kids have probably heard konnichiwa. They're not going to know what Ohio is. And they're going to think, like you said, Henry, it's the state. This is going to be very confusing. And then they're going to say, what are the Muppet Babies doing? I'm scared.
They'll teach me not confusing things about imagination. Though the rest of the Japanese in this is accurate, right? Or I think so.
It is, yes. The types of swords, like she says, the swords are named this and this. Those aren't names of swords. They're like types of swords. It's like saying this is the meat cleaver and this is the paring knife.
Yeah. Why don't we hear one of the first suspects of the episode, Miss Takai?
Konnichiwa. That means good morning.
Good morning.
These two rare swords, the Daito and the Wakizashi, are over 700 years old.
Oh.
Once they were used by the evil samurai warlord, Asakeri.
Like no kidding, Mr. Guy. He sure is scary.
Mind if I take a closer look at the whatchamacallit?
Stop! These swords are cursed.
Cursed?
Anyone who touches them will be haunted by the ghost of Lord Asakeri.
Ghost?
Well, excuse me.
Come along, kids. We have much more to see.
That's your first of the crazy sound effects that Joe Barbera demanded.
I think it makes the wild takes upsetting when there's just a screaming monkey noise over these characters with their eyes bugging out, their tongues lolling out of their mouths.
Again, in a story where it's like, oh, this is a real mystery you can solve. It's like, but I saw Scooby-Doo's head grow 10 times its size, and then the head popped off, and then he was normal again.
But you'll definitely see a lot of this stuff in their Tiny Toons episodes. They almost rely too much on it.
Yeah, I want to say I learned the term wild takes as a kid from like a Tiny Toons episode explaining it, right?
Yeah, I wonder if they formalized it because I'm not sure what I would have called it before. Like, oh, it's a crazy expression or he looked silly there. But yeah, wild takes, that was like one of the classes they took at the Doo-niversity.
And Miss Takai is voiced by an actual Japanese American. You wouldn't have assumed it, thinking how cheap Hanna-Barbera is, but this is Takayo Tsubochi Fisher. Partially, I think they knew her because she was married to the late Cy Fisher. I believe Miss Fisher is still with us, but she was married to a Hanna-Barbera producer, Cy Fisher, who is famous as the agent who connected them with Stan Lee in the 60s to make a Fantastic Four cartoon.
Okay. Well, it is nice that they are casting appropriately in this era where Tress MacNeille could be flown in.
I know. It's I do bet it is partially inspired by Iwao Takamoto, a Japanese American, being such a high-level person at the company. I actually do really like that Shaggy and Scooby come in as the crazy American kid vision of what a samurai warrior is, and then you have an actual Japanese American explaining Japanese terms and history in a like relatively respectful way.
Yeah, but she also believes in curses, although this could just be to scare the kids.
She was born in 1932 and at the age of 9 was placed in a concentration camp by the U.S. government.
I'm going to say that's unfair.
Yes, she actually was in the same one in Arkansas with George Takai, actually. And meanwhile, Scooby-Doo designer Iwao Takamoto was placed in Manzanar. And She actually has a full interview and testimonial about her experiences on the very helpful Densho Digital Repository, which is a collection of many stories of people who were part of the American internment camp or concentration camp systems we had.
You know, it is George Takei, and I'm wondering if it's George Takei.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if when they named Miss Takei, were they thinking of George Takei? And like most people, until I feel like fairly recently, they didn't really know how to say his name.
Okay, all right. Many apologies to George Takei. Here I am trying to be respectful to the history of such a shameful part of American history, and I messed up his name. I'm so sorry, Mr. Takei. And the Densho Digital Repository really is interesting. It just lost its federal funding, you might not be surprised to learn.
It's teaching us about all that history that makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, also to put this in time frame here, 2 months before this episode aired is when Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 that, quote, granted redress of $20,000 and a formal presidential apology to every surviving U.S. citizen or legal resident immigrant of Japanese ancestry incarcerated during World War II.
Wow, he was so woke.
What a woke monster he was to get 82,000 people were eventually able to claim that. Like, I mean, America owes restitution to lots of people, but to even know that they did that for 82,000 people, that would never happen now, ever. An apology and money?
The window sliding, everybody.
I mean, now, obviously, the apology, I would assume, is going to be officially retracted soon, and they'll rebuild the internment camps in those old places.
Yeah, they don't even want to pay for an apology anymore.
I would guess Manzanar is about to be reopened any day now, I would think.
Mm-hmm. They'll give it a fun name, don't worry.
I knew all about these wakizakis recently because they, wakizashi swords, because Tanto is like the other name for it. That's one of the weapon types in the recent Assassin's Creed game. And I really liked using the Tanto to slit throats as a cool ninja.
It sounds more educational than any museum.
I don't need to visit the Inari Gates this time when I visit Japan because I can just walk them myself in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Oh, how nice.
And yes, those are some ugly, ugly children looking up at Miss Takei there.
Museum after museum of ugly, ugly children.
For a second, I was like, oh, is Asakari a real person? I realized, like, no, it's a joke. It's so he can say, yeah, he really is scary.
Yeah. Well, when the kids all gasp, I feel like they're just funneling in some generic gasp sound effect of adults, and it makes it even creepier with these children gasping in adult noises.
They've probably been in the soundboard collective at Hanna-Barbera since, like, 1967.
Yeah, there's a point in this episode where Velma is doing like the oh, come here, guys, I've got a plan. Psst, 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 psst. But they plug in like an adult whispering, and it's just very odd.
Yeah, those are probably whispers from like a Jetsons episode or something. And yeah, it's Red Herring. I love Red Herring. It's how I learned the term as a kid. Every time they did the recurring joke of Red Herring, like, it's got to be Red Herring. I loved it. It made me laugh so hard every time.
Freddy always falls for it. He's profiling these redheads.
It helps, too, that Red Herring is a jerk. This actually, like, the other episodes, Red Herring is even funnier because he's, like, not even there. And, like, Freddy has to, like, break into his house and be like, hey, it's you, isn't it? And Red Herring has to, in other times, say, I'm not even in this episode, you dipstick. It's not me.
Freddy does not trust the Irish.
I mean, Red Herring does seem to be a jerk. I understand. And then there is an episode in season, I want to say 3 or 4, where Red Herring actually is the culprit. And Freddy was told he can't accuse Red Herring all episode, and that's when it turns out it actually is him, and Freddy loses his mind.
Hey, eventually Hanna-Barbera had to shake things up. I mean, the really rottens won the Laugh Olympics a few times.
Yeah, you got to throw kids a curveball at some point before they think it's not going to happen. Like, same Dick Dastardly. Man, how many wacky races did Dick Dastardly ever win, I wonder? I need to look up his win-loss record. There's also some fun squash and stretch, even with Miss Takei, when she tells Red Herring, like, hey, don't touch those. Like, I freeze framed it, and it's like, wow, it's a crazy drawing of her for like a 1/10 of a second there. So everybody leaves the room except for Shaggy and Scooby, which is where they can run into a monster who is able to float around. Again, if you think of the man who's the culprit inside of that floating around, it makes no sense.
He can just kind of appear whenever he wants to as well. And I guess The fact that he is just sort of babbling nonsense is excused by the fact that it's just some white guy inside who doesn't know Japanese.
At first, I thought the gibberish of like "hi ya waka bubba," all of that I thought was insensitive, but it's actually a plot point that he doesn't know Japanese.
It's actually a racist old white man appropriating.
You know, it is fun that usually the culprit in most Scooby stories is the rich white guy who is trying to like steal something or counterfeit something or smuggle something.
Yeah, I think that was purely by accident, just because they didn't want to put any people of color on the show initially.
Back in 1969, you're right. Yeah, it's like, well, and I mean, it's funny if it's the real estate developer. That's what it'll be. So this is where Shaggy does jump out of his clothes, which he did all of the time. It's a wild take. But this one actually matters for plot purposes, and he drops his kimono for it to be a clue Velma will note later. That's when they hide in the treasure chest with the air holes on it, which, yeah, I didn't even catch that. It's like, that totally had to be a censor note.
Yeah, they're very, very big holes. So I felt the standards and practices. Later on, when the pillows are broken out for an action scene, that felt like another note to me.
That was the most obvious one to me, but this is just a little after Punky Brewster told us all how to not hide in refrigerators.
I don't know. I never saw one in the wild, Punky. I'm sorry.
You know, after that, I think it had its real purpose to make garbage men do better at throwing away their old refrigerators.
Yeah, crack that fridge open. If there's a kid inside, you can keep it.
So this is where everybody comes back and they see that the two swords have been stolen. And Red Herring names them as the suspects first. And Shaggy and Scooby are not happy.
Like it was a samurai ghost. He was here.
Ha! I'll bet you two did it. You were just in the room, weren't you?
Hey, wait a minute. We can't be crooks. We're the stars of the show. Yeah, stars. Like that's better.
All right, you two. Where'd you hide those swords?
Like we didn't steal anything. Go ahead and search me. I've got nothing to hide.
Yeah, go ahead and search them. It'll be a pleasure.
Stand back, kid. I'm in charge here. And I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
I do like them noticing the Chiron. For such a digital show, you would think it would be a digital Chiron of the suspects, but them calling out like, hey, we're the stars of the shows. We can't be the bad guys.
Yeah, Suspects 1 and 2, that text appears on the screen. And this is when the guard violates Shaggy's civil liberties by strip searching a young boy.
This was a joke back then, and now it's been a reality of the TSA for decades. And of course, he has funny boxer shorts on. Why wouldn't he? He's though they pull out all that food, not one Dagwood sandwich. I expect that in a Shaggy backpack.
But there was like a big ham hock, right?
Yeah, definitely a ham hock and burgers on the grill, and then a full refrigerator. Then they see, oh, he doesn't have it. And we get more suspects walking into the screen. And this is where I don't know who voices Thornsby, but Hamilton Camp's voice as Mr. Dayton is so recognizable because me and you love Gizmo Duck, don't we?
Oh, he's Gizmo Duck.
Yes, he's Fenton Crackshell and Gizmo Duck from original DuckTales and Darkwing. Yep.
Okay, I should note that I don't think they give this curator a name until really too late in the episode, because we know Mr. Kai, we know Thornsby is the name of the security guard, and then he's like, as the museum curator, I'm very upset with you, and then later we find out his name is Dayton.
Yeah, you're right. It's if they're going to play by mystery rules, I should say they should probably name everybody much earlier than this. Well, Bob, you're a big mystery reader and expert. How would you rate the mystery writing of this episode?
I mean, I don't think, because it doesn't play by the rules of reality, it's really hard to judge how great this mystery is. But I mean, I'm sure I watched this as a kid and maybe as a teen on Cartoon Network, but I immediately solved it.
Tom Ruger did say he was feeling better about writing mysteries in this season because when he was writing on the Scrappy cartoons, those were often 11-minute 2-episode segments, and that's even less time to write a mystery. If you're going to, if you have 11 minutes, how can you introduce even 2 suspects in a story like that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they should have just planted evidence on Red Herring and sent him away.
That would have saved everybody. I mean, that's really what this Freddie Jones is going to end up doing eventually.
Also, some things didn't make sense. Like, why would the tour guide get money if the swords were stolen?
I have to think that obviously this is not explained in the episode. My guess is that Mr. Dayton forged those to make her look guilty and put her name on it.
I see. And the kids, they're too stupid to know what insurance is or who would benefit from it anyways.
And but yeah, that's Hamilton Camp. He has 1 million credits in live action and in voice acting. He did 1 million voices. The Gizmo Duck's the most famous, but he was a kid actor in the 50s, so you won't be surprised to learn he passed away at the age of 71 in 2005. Also, I think Mr. Dayton is not an interesting villain in that he is just Mr. Spacely with a wig on.
Yes. I'm glad you called him Mr. Spacely. That was my go-to for this guy. It's like they even kept the Mr. Spacely from the Jetsons stubble, but then they put a mustache on him.
Somebody took it easy that day with that one. I mean, it's hard to design characters, new ones every episode to be the suspects. But man, this guy, it's just Mr. Spacely with a wig on and an extra mustache.
Yeah, he's got like Dilbert Boss hair too.
Yeah, it is Dilbert Boss hair or crusty hair.
Crusty too, yeah.
And notice this is something when you're a kid, maybe you don't notice, very obvious as an adult. Anytime a clue happens and you should be paying attention, Velma is writing something down. Or she just outright says Jinkies. But like when he says, "You're the kid who lost his kimono," Velma is writing that down on her notepad because it will matter later. And this is where Shaggy, he thinks, but they're going to blame us for this. No one's going to blame me for it. Boom, the Daily Babbler is libeling Shaggy as already guilty of stealing the sword.
Yeah. Despite being a juvenile offender, Shaggy is going to do some hard time for this. I would say get a lawyer, Shaggy. Stop investigating this mystery.
Yes. Well, you know what? He wants to do his own research. That's what Shaggy wants to do.
Well, I guess the craziest people do represent themselves in court, so that checks out.
And this is a guy who talks to his dog, so he can't all be there. So, yes, this is where everybody's trying to figure out what to do. Freddy is reading his UFO magazine and believes in horoscopes. And this is where Velma finally says something.
Like you guys won't forget to write us, will you?
Yeah, write us. Oh, you two aren't going to jail. Not as long as the Scooby-Doo Detective Agency is on the job. Jinkies. Velma spoke.
She said Jinkies.
We're saved, Scoob!
Yippee! Do you have an idea, Velma?
Yes, but we'll have to go back to the museum and search for clues.
Like I was afraid she was going to say that.
Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo.
Hey, I wonder what the Scooby Boobies are up to now. I better follow them and find out.
Part of what makes this show a little low budget is they really spend almost all the entire time in one location.
Yes. Well, and when they're not in that location, they're at the clubhouse they're always in and then go back to that location almost immediately.
Yeah, I forgot about this crazy treehouse that is the size of a skyscraper. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Ruger had another thing I saw. He talked about how he wanted the background designs to have like most buildings be at slanted angles and everything look weird too. And a detail he really liked is in episodes where you go to Shaggy's home, it is supposed to look like a low rent, like kind of house that has the Christmas lights on all year because they are too lazy to take it down.
So we get a bit of Shaggy's home life in the show.
Yeah, it's also the Scooby Boobies. They got away with something there too. I'd say. Same with him getting away with calling somebody a dipstick as well.
Yeah, that was shocking to me.
It's just like when little Pete can get away with saying blowhole and all that stuff. But this is where we get another of the key Scooby moments in here, as Scooby must be bribed.
But Scooby, if you don't go inside, you and Shaggy could go to jail.
No way! I'm scared.
Would you do it for a Scooby snack?
Okay.
Oh no! I must have left them at home in my dresser drawer.
Okay.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo.
Thanks, Scooby. Here they are.
Yes, that's the classic Scooby snack acting.
Yeah, they really pushed over the top in this because in the original series, it's like, okay, Scooby's afraid. Would you do it for one Scooby snack? Would you do it for two? And then once they come to the agreed upon number of Scooby snacks, he will like float through the air or whatever. But this, they always push it like he has to go home and bring back something, or it's like about a minute of killing time with this.
I was hoping this would be one of the ones where Shaggy eats it too, but I definitely think Shaggy eats the Scooby snacks in this series at some point, but not here. I like when Shaggy finally just starts eating dog food.
And hey, they sell Scooby snacks for humans.
Yeah, I think, and sometimes they're called SNACKS, and sometimes they're SNAX. Here it's CKS, and that's it was driving me crazy watching this because I was like, God, this whole act out, the an explosion. I was like, this wasn't a thing before Scooby-Doo. What are they ripping off? I could not remember. This is what I had to ask our pal Thad about.
Oh, please do tell.
So it is Hanna-Barbera ripping themselves off. In early Quick Draw McGraw, there was an episode where Quick Draw has a dog who helps him called Snuffles. And he's like, Snuffles will do anything you ask for a dog biscuit. And then if I explain it, maybe you'll even remember Snuffles. Like, he doesn't like Scooby talk, but he does go like, and points in his mouth.
Okay, I'm forming a fuzzy memory again of the USA Cartoon Express.
Yeah, and so he would do something for a dog biscuit, and then he gets fed one, then jump out a window. Like, that was how he proved it. But he did the exact, like, hugging himself in, like, rapturous glee, popping off of the screen and floating back in. So in Thad's idea, he believes it was a Michael Maltese joke idea for that Quick Draw episode, and that Hanna-Barbera liked it so much, they're like, can we just give that to Scooby-Doo?
Sure, Snuffles is dead.
Yeah, I wonder how much Snuffles appeared after that. I mean, Snuffles does not have the pure marketability of a Scooby-Doo.
Now, I'm looking at the wiki entry, the Hanna-Barbera wiki entry for Snuffles. He did appear in Yogi's Treasure Hunt. That was the 1980 series? Late 80s series?
Oh, Ruger worked on that too. Yeah, that was another
Okay.
in the Ruger era. Yes, yeah. It's man, was Yogi's Treasure Hunt? I want to say that's where they're all. It's like it is a team up show where it's all of Jellystone style dudes together, like they're in Peter Potamus's Ark or something, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Yogi's Ark is a different show, but
Oh,
Yogi's Treasure
right,
Hunt involves a lot of characters. Yogi's Ark is the biblical retelling of Genesis with Yogi,
Yes.
as far as I know.
And it's 2x2 animals, except they're all male because they're Hanna-Barbera characters.
Mm-hmm. Yogi's Ark Lark.
Ark Lark? What the hell?
Yeah,
Man.
it's a real lark.
But I thank you, Thad, for finding the originator of that gag that was then repurposed to be Scooby once. Because I asked him, was this something in a Yogi cartoon with a dog that bugged him or something? Like, I knew I could remember it from a Hanna-Barbera dog, but I could not. There's so many darn lovable dogs in Hanna-Barbera.
Just ultimately, I'm just happy I was born in 1982. I don't have to have memories of Snuffles. I only have vague ones because the stuff was shown to me, this material made for boomers.
Part of watching the old ones on Cartoon Network was to see the first time they did like, oh, wait, that's the first dog that did the Muttley laugh that they then repurposed for Muttley or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Which was probably stolen from some radio thing to begin with.
Yeah, probably. And Hanna-Barbera had no original ideas ever. This is our main point. So yes, they sneak into the museum. Yeah, I think, like you said, Freddy's voice actor doesn't fully pull off the joke of him thinking Scooby and Shaggy are a woman and their baby standing next to them. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, it's a kind of a misfire with the line reading there, but ultimately it seems like acting was not this guy's thing. So,
and this is where, as they're walking around, they get to overhear more clues, such as that Dayton is. They're all blaming each other. Like, he's like, how do I know you didn't steal it? He's already setting up Mystikai to go to jail. He's going to imprison this woman of color when she's already been in an internment camp. It's insulting.
Mystikai canonically has been in an internment camp.
I mean, if she's a Japanese American in her 40s, I would assume in 1988, I would guess so.
Sure.
So once they hear all of the facts and, is it Miss Takai? Is it Officer Security Guard Thornsby? Or is it Thornsby or Hornsby? I wrote down Hornsby, but I think it is Thornsby.
I wrote down Hornsby first, but later they say Thornsby.
I mean, it could also just be so slapdash that, like, the voice actor said Hornsby first and then Thornsby later.
Could be.
And this is where the suspects walk away, and it's time to look for more clues as Freddy says what is basically his catchphrase. So, like, he even pauses. So, let's split up, gang.
So you were pointing in the air when you were gesturing. Was there a big Kennedy finger popping in the air?
Imagine that when I'm doing it. Yeah, I think so. It was, by this point, everybody knew that, like, the bit was Freddy always says split up. It's not a Scooby-Doo episode classic if Freddy doesn't say, so let's split up and search, which was always an excuse for Shaggy and Scooby and sometimes Velma to stand somewhere else and have a scary thing happen while Freddy and Daphne do virtually nothing.
Yeah, Velma will do like a Mr. Magoo bit, and like she'll think the monster is Shaggy at first.
And meanwhile, Freddy and Daphne have nothing funny to do. So, but that's also why, like, Johnny Bravo cartoons, for instance, do the joke of Freddy and Daphne always split up together to make out away from everybody else. That's what they were doing. But this split up doesn't last very long at all, as they basically just say, the east wing's clear, the west wing's clear, the end.
And then there's another example of a gag that could have been sold better if they had more control over the animation, where they're radioing each other from the different wings of the museum. And when they decide each wing is clear, like Freddy steps across the split screen to come back to where Velma and Shaggy are instead of traveling there normally. And then later we find out they can just jump into paintings.
And, when Velma is looking around here, this is when I remembered that our pals on Gayest Episode Ever, they did an entire Scooby episode where they talked about the queer actress and politician who inspired Velma, Sheila Kuehl. Who was one of the many Dobie Gillis actors who was entirely ripped off, along with the Archies. Dobie
Yes,
Gillis.
we neglected to mention that all of Scooby-Doo is ripped off of the Dobie Gillis TV show from the 50s, 60s.
Yeah, the many loves of Dobie Gillis, I want to say.
Thank you, yeah.
Which I only watched as a kid on Nick at Night for two reasons. One, because Gilligan was on it as Maynard G. Krebs. But also that one episode on Nick at Night was heavily advertised as Warren Beatty was on this episode. It hasn't aired on TV in decades. Watch it. And so Nick at Night treated it as an event, and I watched that.
Dick Tracy himself, kids.
That is probably why I watched it. Like, wow, the Dick Tracy. My mom and dad, knowing Warren Beatty is a very famous man for years in their youths, and then I just know him as Dick Tracy, every kid's best friend. They our pals on Gayest Episode Ever did a great history on Sheila Kuehl. But this also is where we get a very, again, I was like, how'd you get away with saying, you better tone down the suction, Scoob? How'd you get away with that?
Yes. Because Scooby is sniffing around for clues. That's when he sucks a vase into his head. They try to find avenues in which to have like a wild take or a character become deformed.
Yeah, that honestly, his head getting stuck in the vase and it reshaping, that also could have been executed a little more clearly of how he sucked it. I mean, your nose can suck things, but also like calm down on a suction, Scooby. I was like, I don't know. His nose is a vacuum cleaner? Sure. Okay. So, yes, they all regroup. I do like Velma's quiet take to the screen of like, he shouldn't be able to do that. That's very silly. She doesn't like that he broke the reality for that walking across the split screen. So then we head into the next room. They're at Harvard Hughes' Mahogany Pigeon, which would have flown over my head as a kid. The reference there.
Yes, the Spruce Goose. The best version of this, though, was the Spruce Caboose from The Simpsons.
Yes, if you want to learn all about the real Hercules plane, we give a history of that in our recent episode about Burns' Casino. Or Springfield $, blah, 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 the name of the episode. And this is where, as the group gets together at the plane, they start finding some more clues.
Freddy and Daphne to Velma.
No luck here in the East Wing. How about you? Negative in the West Wing.
Okay, then, let's regroup.
Wow, like that was fast.
Yeah.
Come on, gang. We've got to find those swords. Wow, look at the size of that plane.
Like it must be 20 feet tall.
22.7 to be exact.
What's that, Scoob?
Jinkies, it's a clue.
A clue?
It's an insurance policy. It says that Mystic High will get $1 million if the swords are stolen.
$1 million, huh? It sounds like we've got another suspect.
Like great work, Scoob.
Thanks, lady.
And the ghost appears again to corner that. And honestly, he only appears, I think, because it's time for a commercial break. Like, that's the only reason.
Yeah, we need a cliffhanger in this 2-act show. Weird 2-act show. I guess the first commercial break was after the intro.
Yeah, that has to be it. Yeah. It must have been tough to replay it on Cartoon Network in that way for the ads, the ad placement. But
I don't know. Cartoon Network did do a ton of shows with 2 11-minute segments.
Oh, actually, yeah, you're
so
right.
Essentially, this is 2 11-minute segments.
I take that back. It fits better on Cartoon Network, really. You're right. And yeah, the gang gets cornered, which also is meaningless because they can just pull a battering ram off screen to break open the door once they come back from the commercial break.
Yes, Shaggy should just bring a giant gun with him.
I mean, there have to be episodes. No, that would be against the cartoon violence. I was going to say there must be episodes where they like pull out a cannon or something, but it's like, no, that would go against just the rules of cartoon violence in this show.
Yeah, I think even something that cartoonishly violent would be over the top for the standards and practices. But yeah, they're in the spruce. What is it? The mahogany pigeon?
Mahogany pigeon, yes.
Yeah. And we get the classic costume antic bit where they're fooling the monster by dressing up, except it's almost always in the original series Shaggy and Scooby. And Shaggy and Scooby got into some trouble when they dressed up as Chinese waiters once. So I'm glad they didn't go for anything quite so ethnic this time around. Instead, they're a friendly flight crew.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, actually, you're right. Not dealing with any ethnicity. That's a smart move on Shaggy and Scooby's part here. It's nice that the whole team gets in on it too, of treating the monster. I mean, it's always fun. I like the gang dresses up to fool a monster segment. These are, in my memory, I thought, oh, Pup Named Scooby-Doo really challenges the format. And then this episode hits all of the checklists of what counts as a Scooby-Doo adventure from the beginning. So it follows the formula pretty closely.
Although, if you want to poke at the Scooby-Doo logic here, scenes like this always make me think, well, are they not afraid of the monster anymore? And also, if it's a ghost, why can they tie it up?
Yeah,
it's the same question you would ask with every Scooby-Doo. Like, okay, well, they know monsters aren't real. So if the monster attacks you, just pull up the costume until you find a person underneath.
Also, usually the monster isn't even trying to hurt them. Like, it just wants to scare them away they can, collect the insurance policy in this case or steal something.
And that's why Zombie Island is so good, because they could only do it once. It's the thing where they know there are no monsters and they try to pull the mask off and they find out this time the monsters are real. In stores now.
What a difference 10 years makes from this episode. They get to rip a zombie's head off in that direct-to-video film. But yes, they dress up and do the silly dress-up sequence, including saying, this is a no scaring section of this commercial flight. Then, luckily, the museum keeps this up to safety standards because there's an inflatable raft on this museum piece.
This episode is so old that there were once smoking sections on flights in this reality.
Yeah, I guess by 88, they must have been pretty much outlawed at that point, right?
I would hope so. But he's really getting the treatment you used to get on planes, because it's like, oh, do you want blankets and pillows and a stack of magazines and a drink?
This has to be what you got on a coach flight back in 1987, right?
And a hot towel on your face. I've only gotten those on international flights.
It is, yes, to this Japanese episode, Japanese flights, you get that old treatment. You still do. You get 2 meals on a friggin' flight to Japan over the Pacific.
And lots of snacks and alcoholic beverages. It's great.
I just flew Alaska the other day, and boy, are my arms tired. Hey, no, I just flew Alaska the other day, and they actually I got a 1 drink and a pack of pretzels, a very small pack of pretzels.
Was it just like, what was your drink? Just water?
Well, I could have gotten a Coke or something, but yes, I got water, no ice. So that's
okay.
Just to make it easy.
Red wine all the way.
See, as a CPAP user, I try not to fall asleep on planes, and as much as alcohol would make a flight easier, it'll make me too sleepy and I'll fall asleep. Though I've been on flights now, I've never tried it. Also because I feel like I would feel weird wearing my CPAP on a plane surrounded by other passengers. But I have, on the flight I was just on, it did have like a plug on the seat on this Alaska flight. I maybe could have plugged my CPAP into it and used it. But
I'm sure people have seen it before.
yeah, actually, more and more people are being prescribed it these days, as is good, and it helps people. So maybe I should normalize it by wearing it on the plane too.
You could be a pioneer.
See, they'll see me wearing it and they'll think that the cabin has lost pressure and I'm wearing one of those masks.
Or maybe they'll think you're sick and they'll be nicer to you.
They won't cough in my face as much on the COVID planes.
They won't know what it is, so they'll think, oh, is that poor man in an iron lung? What is this?
So, yes, they all run away. This is where Velma does everything because they have another classic like Scooby is hiding in the sarcophagus, which you mentioned. Nobody calls it that.
The mummy case.
And here's where Velma does everything again. She finds all the clues, and then who's the one who ties up the ghost? Friggin' Velma. She's the one who grabs the wrappings off of Scooby and ties him up.
Yeah, some of this stuff doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, people, for pointing this out of the in the Scooby-Doo show from 40 years ago, but I feel like the animation is not selling what they're trying to communicate because the ghost finds Scooby in the mummy case because it's hearing eating noises. He opens the case. Scooby's not actually eating anything. So I thought, like, okay, there's a missed joke. And then it's easier to write this on paper, maybe easy to storyboard, but they have to sell the joke where Velma steps on the mummy wrappings, Scooby-Doo spins out of them, and then somehow those wrappings end up on the monster, which does not, like, it's really hard to make that happen in a convincing way, which is why it doesn't.
And then they have to just fade out of that scene and fade into the next scene. And then they have to be like, oh, the sarcophagus is empty. And it actually was switched off screen. I was like, you couldn't show any of that? Like, you just, like, fade out?
Yeah, that's why it's a kind of a bad mystery to judge because so much stuff is happening off screen. And also, once you get the ghost in the sarcophagus, one person sticks behind while everyone else goes to get help. There's not a second ghost running around.
You would at least think the hyper-competent Velma would have said, hey, somebody watch this. Or you could have a joke that Shaggy and Scooby failed to watch it, and then it escapes,
Yeah, and what also makes it a bad mystery of sorts is that there are identical sarcophaguses and identical swords in the same museum.
Yeah, that also, Velma just has fake swords sitting around for no good reason. Like, it's, which, then it can't be a grounded mystery anymore if somebody can just make fake swords out of nowhere, like Velma does, seemingly.
Yeah, it could be a plot point. It's like, oh, wow, the ones on display are actually replicas. The other ones were too valuable to put out on the floor. That's why they're in the basement here. I mean, there's no time for that, but I just thought I missed something, and I had to keep scrolling through the file to see, like, what? Okay, where did these fake swords come from? Well, they come from nowhere.
You're punching up this mystery with better details.
Tom Ruegger, hire me. In 1988, I'm 6, but I've got some ideas.
But this is where Freddy is made to look a fool as our suspects all reconvene.
Like, here's the samurai ghost who stole the swords.
Yeah, right there. Ghost? I don't see any ghost.
Don't worry, Mr. Dayton. The ghost is absolutely, positively, undeniably in this case. Of course, I could be wrong.
What's the meaning of this? But we had the ghost locked up in this case.
Yeah, like, show him, Scoob.
Okay. If you ask me, this kid and his pup stole the swords. Hornsby, I am tired of your excuses. I want those swords back before I leave town, or you're through. Yes, sir, Mr. Dayton.
I guess Dayton is the most guilty because he's the one he doth protest too much. This is also where you hear about his vacation, which is also kind of a crummy clue, I would say.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to leave on my mysterious trip.
To the point that they just have to remind you of that clue by having a telegram guy show up in a scene. Is that at least they make it funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they also talk about not the best execution. They want to have the bit of Scooby-Doo imitates the bad guy, but he really doesn't. It doesn't move very well, him imitating the ghost being tied up.
No, and then Don Messick has to do some not great noises, let's call them.
Yes, yeah. It's you know what, he's a dog. He doesn't know any better.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that because they're trying to be sensitive in this period where people are really nasty about Japanese folks because of the differences in American economy compared to Japanese economy.
Yeah, again, what a respectful episode this is, but for 1988 and Hanna-Barbera standards. So this is where Velma's already figured it out. Somehow the bad guy escaped off screen. He broke that sarcophagus, but the one he was in was fake, and he replaced it with the other one upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also a hidden wall, which has no other plot purpose in here either.
Yeah, why is this in the museum? Also, why doesn't he just escape? Why does he need to make them think he didn't escape? Because he just appears again.
Why did he leave the swords downstairs? Well, I guess, okay, so Mr. Dayton appeared there. So he had to be out of the costume to then see the empty sarcophagus to then have an alibi, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. The show is smarter than me at this point.
So they head downstairs. This is where Daphne is grossed out, but only because dust is going to ruin her clothes. She does not believe in ghosts. A very clear, important fact about Daphne. I think that's kind of her catchphrase she says every episode is there's no such thing as ghosts. Some variation on that.
But I just saw the real Ghostbusters a half hour before this.
That's her way of saying this isn't the show that you watched before this one. And so they head downstairs where it's Rark and Ruki. This is where they find the swords. Where also the swords, the washizashi is supposed to be smaller, but they draw two katanas, or just two swords of the same size.
They're katana-ish.
And this is where they also say, like, there's no such thing as curses either. Seemingly they are cursed, though, because the ghost appears. And this is where they also, I love hearing Shaggy just say, like, it's time for the chase. Start the music, Scoob.
Yeah, and he gives Scooby a quarter, and he walks over to a jukebox, and then they start the chase montage.
I like that they know the chase montage is so cliche at this point. Everybody knows it's coming. Put a quarter in the machine and get the song going, which is it like instead of rolling on the river, it's running from a ghost or
something like that. Nothing very inspired.
Actually, wait, I have a quick clip of it here.
Now he's got you running like you seen a ghost. Here he comes, terrible and ugly, scarier than most. Here he comes, there's no time to lose. He's hot on your trail, he's moving your shoes. Hope your feet don't fail. Running like you seen a ghost.
Yes, it's a mix of Born to Be Wild. It's like get your motor running. And then the chorus is rolling on a river, rolling down a river, whatever that song is.
Yeah, it's you're right. It is hey, by mashing up two different songs they're ripping off, then they can't be sued by anybody. It becomes parodic at that point.
It's Proud Mary, I guess.
Okay, right. Yes. I was just saying the name of the chorus. The song is Proud Mary, yes. And it's full of like the paintings joke is like, it's okay. Though, I mean, it's better than the whale one. The whale one is just like, just very flat, very flat. I mean, all of this, it really comes down to execution. And Glenn Kennedy and his team, they're not being paid well enough to do this better. They're not allowed many retakes. But also, is he really up for it anyway? I wonder.
Yeah, and like some of the gags don't really work that well. There's the one gag where they're running across the screen, but they're supposed to be like posed like Egyptians, but only maybe two of the characters are half selling it with their poses. So I felt like, we needed like another take on this, but I understand there was no time to sit down and decide how would each character walk like an Egyptian. Let's figure it out.
Also, they like that would take like 5 different key poses in a walk cycle, right? So just put up one arm one way like an Egyptian. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, so also in this episode, they're insensitive towards the Egyptian culture as well, when they're walking like an Egyptian. So once the song is over and they've hit the Scooby Romp checklist as well, this is where Velma makes her final important discovery.
Kono katana wa nisemono desu.
Hey, what's the deal, Velma? You just let the ghost get away with the swords.
No, I didn't. They're right here. You mean he didn't take the real swords? No, Daphne. I said to him in Japanese, those swords are fake. That's funny. Why wouldn't a Japanese ghost understand Japanese?
Oh boy, like I'm confused. This mystery needs more clues.
Yeah, sure. Problem is, clues don't just walk up and say hi.
Hi. Plane ticket and Bon Voyage fruit basket for Mr. Dayton.
But he's not.
Thanks.
Chinkies. This This is a one-way plane ticket.
Mr. Dayton must be taking a long vacation.
Yeah. Well, according to my calculations, the ghost will get a one-way ticket to jail.
Does this mean what I think it means?
That's right. I've got a plan.
It wouldn't be an 80s cartoon if a nerd character didn't say, according to my calculation.
Yes. And yeah, Henry and I are both deep into Duolingo, and her Japanese is correct. Except the pronunciation's a little off. She's jamming some things together. There's some weird pauses. She says desu instead of des, but it all works out.
Yeah, and same with like katana wa, like maybe the article's different than it should be. But this taught me the word nisemono. I did not know that meant forgery. So.
Yeah. Duolingo's not telling me how to call things fake.
Yes, yeah. Duolingo has told me that the word mono means like thing, and if you want to say it's taught me food is tabemono, like eating thing, kind of. Well, look, I'm not an expert either. Velma knows more Japanese than me, but that's the best I can figure. Like, oh, nisemono means like fake thing, I guess. I mean, hey, we all of us learning Japanese learn early on. You don't say desu, you say des. Des.
But hey, she's 6. Let's give her some slack here.
And yeah, Velma, this is like the most clever mystery bit in the episode, I'd say. That is, Velma knows Japanese, says something in Japanese to the ghost, and the ghost doesn't understand it, which proves it is, at the very least, not a Japanese ghost.
Yeah, and that rolls out Mr. Kai.
Though then the next clue that just shows up when Freddy demands it, that is all the information you need. It's like, oh, well, this is a man escaping. It's obviously Mr. Dayton.
Yeah.
So yes, the computer tells her how to build it. So again, Velma figures out who it is. Like, she knows it's Mr. Dayton right now. And she's the one who makes the plan for the trap, which that's Freddy's thing. Freddy is the guy who builds the traps. That's what they gave him in Mystery Incorporated, that he like reads Traps Weekly and really enjoys building traps, which, yes, bad people on the internet have used that term in a negative way and have made a meme out of Freddy with that. It sucks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Referring to a person as a trap, is that what you're talking about in that offensive way?
Yes, yeah. That hateful people use trap to refer to some people. And I have seen, when I tried to find fun things of Freddy being a fan of traps, it unfortunately leads to people using that as a meme in a negative way.
What about the great Star Wars, it's a trap guy?
Oh, man, Admiral Akbar, he's appeared on tons of transphobic memes with that, for
I'm sure. He
sure.
has.
But yes, it's Velma. Velma does everything here. Though also when the ghost comes in to get the real swords, which I guess Mr. Dayton realized off screen they're fake, he floats in, which I'm like,
Yes.
okay, come on.
We're not seeing the elaborate pulley system that he operates with.
Though I guess when the costume is removed and you see all of the like stilts and stuff he has, you're already supposed to just go like, well, this is ridiculous. This is impossible. Though also shameful of Mr. Dayton to be fooled by like a Chinese New Year dragon outfit by Shaggy and Scooby.
I guess that's another test to see if he knows what ethnicity he's supposed to be embodying here.
Though I guess also, like, this shows you Mr. Dayton is you would think a guy who runs a museum would know more than this, but maybe he's like some politician's friend who got appointed this job. Shaggy and Scooby get revealed, they get chased back, and this is where, again, Velma basically just stops the show and says, now is the ending, and I decide. Velma does something she could have done at any point in the episode.
Beat the shit out of this ghost?
Yeah, she, here's the clip.
Don't touch these swords. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Like Velma's got a black belt in karate, judo, kung fu, and croquet.
Now, Freddy.
Got it, Velma!
Good job, Velma.
Yeah, you turned that warlord into a sword lord.
Warlord? I don't get it.
So yeah, Velma does the Bam Bam bit, though also when I asked Thad about this, it's like, isn't this was Droopy's thing, right? Like, this is a Droopy joke that Droopy would reveal, who is a wuss the whole cartoon, would then be like, now you've made me angry, and then would do this routine.
Slam the character back and forth, yeah, but Velma puts down pillows first.
Yeah, which What's really crazy with that pillow joke is, like you mentioned, the Bugs and Tweety cartoons were right after this, where like Bugs is just slapping people in the face and blowing them up. But in the new cartoon,
Daffy's committing suicide regularly.
Yes. I can only do it once.
But yeah, I guess they thought, well, what if a kid tries to do this with their brother and like smashes them against the floor? So if you're going to play rough, put the pillows down first.
Yeah, kill some kid with it. What's that going to cost you? Yeah, the pillows down, it takes all of the fun out of the joke. It definitely, also, it changes nothing in how it's animated, so it feels like a late addition, like maybe even a retake. Some of the retake budget had to be spent on. Now, Velma needs to put pillows down. It already feels justified enough that Velma looks at the camera to be like, don't say I didn't warn you, as in like, this justifies violence.
They need safety gear for all of their slapstick here.
When they were riding on that skateboard, they definitely all had on their proper safety gear.
They did.
So this is where they've... Thornsby is there, but Mr. Kai isn't. So maybe they're trying to like see if a stupid kid might think it's Mr. Kai is the culprit.
They have to reach out to the stupid kids.
Well, hey, speaking of stupid kids, one dumb kid has his own theory of who's guilty.
Thanks for finding the stolen swords, kids. I guess I owe you two an apology.
Like all in a day's work, Mr. Thornsby.
Thought you were pretty sneaky, didn't you, Mr. Samurai? Or should I say, Red Herring?
Forget it, you dipstick. I didn't steal anything. There he is. Come back here. Oh, no. Come back here, you brat.
No, Freddy. Red Herring isn't the ghost. But do you know who it is? Let's review the clues.
So yeah, there it is, Red Herring. He says, it's not, forget it, you dipstick. Like he's always innocent.
Well, I couldn't possibly solve this mystery.
I do like the acting on Daphne too, that she's like, no, Freddy, it's not Red Herring. Again, as a kid, I didn't know the term as the mystery writer insider term of Red Herring. When I heard it later, I was like, oh, like the guy in the cartoon, working backward.
Yeah, I'll forever think of this character when I hear Red Herring.
Which Red Herrings are, I mean, they are fun as a thing that like, oh, this just goes nowhere. Like, it's a clue that leads you in the wrong direction.
So we went over this before. What is up with this first clue that Shaggy left his kimono behind and Mr. Dayton recognized it? How is this a clue? Am I slow here?
So Shaggy gets scared by the ghost and drops his kimono.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would mean that Mr. Dayton was there to see him drop the kimono. However, anybody who was there that day would have seen Shaggy wearing the kimono before being in the previous room and dropping it. But I guess only the ghost saw Shaggy drop his kimono, so that's how it's a clue.
Weird. Yeah, I really don't understand this one.
But Mr. Kai saw him wearing the kimono before, too, so she would know, right?
Yeah, he was openly wearing this thing up until a point.
So that's the first clue. Then the second clue is that he doesn't speak Japanese, and then the third clue is the one-way ticket.
We only need the third clue.
That actually does it all for you right there. I have the last clip is just the last minute of the episode. Nobody explains why the insurance policy was made out to Mr. Kai. That is not explained there.
Yes. But you said it could be like a forgery or something?
Now, that's my guess, that it helpfully frames her, because the police would say, oh, who benefits from stealing this? Her, not Mr. Dayton. I would assume Mr. Dayton's plan is to then sell it to wherever he's traveling at on the black market, I'm guessing. But yes, this is where Velma finishes explaining who the culprit is.
But the third clue is the most important one. Why would anyone buy a one-way ticket if they were only going on vacation? That meant that the ghost could only be one person. Mr. Dayton.
I could have made $1 million if it weren't for these pesky kids and their pup. And you were gonna fire me. Come on, Mr. Curator. You're going to jail.
I'd like to thank you kids for returning my stolen swords. Arigato gozaimasu.
Doi tashimashite.
Yeah, you're welcome. But what happened to Scooby?
The museum decided to give him a gift for helping to catch the thief.
Jinkies, it's a brontosaurus bone.
Like the perfect gift for a pup named...
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
And hey, more accurate Japanese. Except Velma's being extremely formal, but I guess that fits this context.
Oh, totally. I mean, Velma is a very respectful young lady, and that's her elder. So
I would say Daijobu desu.
I learned a fun one though. It's like zen, like no, don't worry. Like but daijoubu desu. Yeah, that's a good one. That reveal there where he says, "I could have made $1 million." Now I'm really questioning that. It's like, but that wasn't her name. The insurance policy was going to go to her.
Yeah, so I guess it was real?
Yeah, wait. Velma putting it that way of like, but the third clue is the only one that really matters. He was leaving town. The end.
Yeah. And it's not like he was trying to frame anyone, the curator. The guard was. I mean, the guard wasn't trying to frame anyone, but he thought it was two people. But the curator was not trying to frame anyone in particular. He was just trying to steal the swords and leave.
Yeah, he actually wasn't even trying to point people to Shaggy and Scooby. He was, or even believing in the ghost. Like,
yeah. Well, he wasn't trying to frame anyone, but he said, "I want you to find who did this before I leave." So he wanted like just anybody to take the fall, but not one particular person. So he wasn't trying to set up Miss Takai for the crime.
Yeah. So really, it's a complete dead end that the insurance policy was made out to her, and doesn't work with whatever his plan was supposed to be. But the important thing is that he said, I wonder how many times meddling was actually ever said in these things. I watched a few other episode endings. They all say pesky kids.
Yeah.
Like he's in those clips.
Or like blasted kids.
In this case, it's pesky, no meddling. I feel like meddling became, another one, like, I feel like Wayne's World was one of the first like parodies I ever saw of a Scooby-Doo ending.
Yeah, I think it just it caught on as something people thought was a Scooby-Doo word, but really wasn't, like Jinkies. Jinkies was said, but it wasn't just this ever-prevalent catchphrase originally.
It's the "beam me up, Scotty," or the or hearing people say, "We're going to need a bigger boat." I just watched Jaws. You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, a "beam me up, Scotty," or "damn it, Jim." There was never a "damn it, Jim."
And Scooby is given a priceless brontosaurus bone, which of course he just chews up entirely and loses in between episodes, I would assume. But the real point of it was, it's not the end of an episode if Scooby-Doo doesn't say Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Well, Ruby Ruby Roo. Wait, does he say Scooby-Dooby-Doo, or is it Ruby Ruby Roo?
Man, all right, well,
I should know this.
Let's hear it one more time here.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Oh, I see. How convenient. To stay on brand, you can actually say the stuff. But any other time you're like, ruh-roh.
Yes. I think this talking dog is tricking us all here. This is like a verbal Kint type act here from old Scooby. But yeah, it's the reveal. I was sure like, oh, Freddy's going to take the mask off. Nope. They set up a stepladder and Velma goes up top and takes the mask off. She gets to do all of it.
That's why they eventually just made a show about Velma.
That we all love. We all love it so much.
And hey, now it's over.
I need to watch the Velma, not that. I watched 7 episodes of that, but I still need to watch the Scooby-Doo original movie, the Trick or Treat one from a few years ago, where Velma just gets to be attracted to a woman and it's not a big deal. They don't make it anything. It's not even a coming out story. She just asks, like, Velma talks to Daphne like, "Hey, I'm crushing on this woman. She's attractive." And Daphne's like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll help you." Nobody says, "You're gay now, Velma?" Like, none of that.
Oh, so this was a special for the new Velma series.
No, it's unrelated to the Velma series.
Okay, because I'm seeing there is a Halloween special, but this is a completely different thing.
I think it's called like Scooby-Doo Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo or something like that. But it's a regular Scooby-Doo where Kate Micucci is Velma, as she often is, and it's a Gray Delisle, Daphne. It's all the classic Scooby characters, and I haven't watched the film to know who the culprit is, but one of the suspects is a fashion designer with glasses who has like a cat, and Velma is like in love with her, like it's the hard eyes and everything. Like, and I've only seen the clips that makes Velma canonically queer. That's all I know. Maybe it was the Mindy Kaling show letting Velma kiss a girl in that allowed them to then do it in a regular Scooby thing as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it kicked open that door for all the ill that the Velma series did.
And so then we go to the credits full of people who you'll never know specifically what they did on the show. But you know what? All is forgiven because it ends with the Hanna-Barbera star logo, which is makes me feel warmly nostalgic every time.
It's like your TV is flushing its toilet.
When we covered Powerpuff Girls, I remembered that it felt like Craig McCracken insisted they use the old spinning star logo because they loved it so much.
I have some nostalgia for that, but I just am filled with like a sense of ennui and just listless childhood days of nothing to do but watch TV and just seeing that horrible swirling logo just summing up my day.
Though sometimes, if you saw that swirling logo, it meant that the Smurfs was finally over and you could watch a good cartoon after.
Thank God.
Well, hey, talking about it's finally over. This episode of Pup Named Scooby-Doo, we're at the end.
Yeah, we went for like 2.5 hours. I'm very happy with that. And the show, it's not really meant for you to return to in 2025 for like legitimate entertainment reasons, but it is fun to see. Again, like we said a long time ago on this episode, this is an important step towards how animation is changing forever on TV in the 90s. So without this, we could not have Tiny Toons. And we can see, here's what Tom Ruegger can do at Hanna-Barbera. Here's what he can do with the power of Spielberg behind him with the next series. So it's fun to see him grow as a creator and leaving the shackles of Hanna-Barbera behind him.
Yes. Yeah, it not only is important to Scooby-Doo lore and sets up all of these things that would appear in all the Scooby stuff afterwards, and it resets Scooby-Doo as a franchise of no Scrappy, and it brings back the entire mystery team. But yeah, this is the tryout that gets Tom Ruegger hired. If there is no Pup Named Scooby-Doo, then there's no Tiny Toons. There's no Animaniacs that follows that. There's no Kids WB in the way that we know it. And also, potentially, Batman the Animated Series likely would have happened, but Tiny Toons being a success and creating the infrastructure to do a Batman show at Warner, on that scale, it wouldn't have existed in 1990-ish when they greenlit the Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we can all thank this version of Muppet Babies with real Ghostbusters in it.
Yes. Thank you. A pup named Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
And yes, this has been another episode of What a Cartoon. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to support the show and get all these episodes ad-free and a week ahead of time, and then access to a huge collection of bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up there for $5 a month. You get the podcast ad-free, like I said, but also access to a huge amount of miniseries episodes, over 200 to date, covering things like Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. And you also get new episodes every month of both Talking Futurama and Talking of the Hill. Again, that is just $5 a month at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And there is a $10 level too. That gets you all of the $5 stuff, of course, but you also get one very, very large podcast once a month on top of that. And what is that, Henry?
Bob is talking about our What a Cartoon movie podcast, which you get to hear our lengthy preview of it every month in the free feed. But if you want to hear the full discussion, which is basically like 3 extra podcasts you get each month, going for 5 or even 6 hours long, you can only hear that if you're a $10 and up subscriber, who also gets all of the ad-free bonuses too at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Just recently, you would have heard our preview of the Lego Movie, which we had a whole bunch of fun talking about that important film. And this end of the month, we're going to be talking about The Fantastic Mr. Fox, Wes Anderson's first animated film and a very autumnal film for this time of year. And don't forget, if you liked all this Scooby talk, I know you're going to love our chat about Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Probably the best Scooby-Doo thing that ever got made, in our opinion anyway. And that's just one of dozens and dozens of films we've covered. We've done tons of Disney, tons of Pixar, tons of Studio Ghibli, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Batman, Beavis and Butthead, all that stuff. Sign up today at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons to see all of the awesome stuff you're missing out on.
And I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and many other places as Bob Servo. And my other podcast is Retronauts. That's a classic gaming podcast all about old video games. You can find that where you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts for a whole bunch of bonus stuff there too. And Henry, what about you?
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram as Talking Henry. And don't forget that on all of those places, you should follow at Talk Simpsons Pod, because that's where you stay in the loop about new episodes of What a Cartoon or Talking Simpsons or any of the other cool stuff that we do on our Patreon. You stay up to date if on Instagram or Blue Sky you follow at Talk Simpsons Pod. And never forget that there is an easy list of all of our free podcasts of What a Cartoon and Talking Simpsons that you can find at TalkingSimpsons.com.
Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next time for an extended free preview of this month's episode of What a Cartoon Movie, all about the fantastic Mr. Fox, and we'll see you then.
Like you better tone down the suction, Scoob.
Okay.